Good evening. Good evening. May I have you, please? Welcome to the Wareham Planning Board meeting of Monday, August 12th. It's 6 p.m. and we're in room 520 of the Multi-Service Center and broadcasting by Zoom, and we're on TV, right, as well. So welcome to the meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock with a roll call. Starting, Jane, can you hear us? Jane?
I can hear you, and Jane Gleason here.
Great, thank you. Mike?
Mike Baptiste here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Julie Moran here.
And the chair, Carl Schultz, is here. Before moving into preliminary business, I'm going to let you know some things we're going to begin changing. We're going to begin implementing some procedural changes beginning tonight, and they'll evolve over the weeks and months to come with the intent to improve our communications with the public and with applicants, to improve our processing of applications, and in general, three things they'll be discussed throughout the meeting, but we're going to establish and publish a planning board schedule and a procedural calendar. So we're going to get much more procedural about how we process applications and having a much more predictable schedule to the degree that we can get there. And we'll talk about that. We're going to request that experts and anyone offering expert testimony or providing expert evidence to swear an oath. So that will be a change beginning this evening. And then finally, this is a bigger change, and it's going to be a little more difficult for us to implement. We're going to establish a procedure to allow the applicants and the citizens to prepare and present findings of fact regarding matters before the board. So I'll talk about that later. And that's going to be the hardest thing, and we'll have to practice, and it'll give us a little bit of effort. So listen for those things as we go through this evening. So having announced that, listen for those things tonight, and you can ask questions at the appropriate time. And this will be published on the website. So moving forward, we have 2 sets of meeting minutes to approve. Minutes from the July 2nd, 2024 meeting. I'm looking for a motion to
Motion to accept. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion by Sam Corbett, a second by Mike Baptiste. Jane, did you resolve your formatting issues?
Yes, I think it's just opening a document in Word on a different computer that somehow messed with it, but the column headers and the information didn't line up. But I think if it's sort of bound in place, it's not a editable document, that it will be fine.
Okay, great. So I'm looking for a vote on the motion. Jane?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike?
Mike Baptiste, aye.
Yep, go Sam.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye to accept the minutes of July 22nd. We have minutes from the July 25th, which was a special one-off meeting.
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
Motion by Sam Corbett, second by Julie Moran. Any discussion? Jane, vote.
Jane Gleason abstain, I was not present.
Mike Baptiste?
Mike Baptiste, aye.
Sam?
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you very much. The first item of business is a discussion on a release of covenant in lieu of a bond for Peyton Estates. Is there anyone here from Peyton Estates?
mentioned attorney.
And who is it?
Just says iPhone.
Who is speaking is on the Zoom for Peyton Estates? Is there anyone here?
They're still muted.
Is Mr. Titlebaum out there?
No.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is that Peter?
It is. I'm trying to appear and speak at the same time, and my Zoom skills on the phone aren't as good as they ought to be.
So focus on the audio. We know what your beautiful face looks like.
well, thanks. I think.
Okay. So
Yes. As some information was requested by you, Mr. Chairman, regarding the status of the dealings with Eversource. I sent you an email explaining that the original work order from last year, Eversource told us that they could not proceed in accordance with that because they don't accept ownership of anything past where the meter is. That's a typical Eversource thing. For example, for your house, they own right to the meter. If a line fails in your yard coming off the pole, that's their problem, not yours. But they view anything after the meter as the individual's problem. So my client is engaged in a sort of a two-part approach to resolving this issue. The first one, which is the very expensive one that I mentioned in my email to you, involves constructing, a whole new set of poles. We've had surveyors out in the easement area that Eversource has in front of these properties. I think they've had some conversation with the neighbors. So that's the expensive auction at approximately $95,000. What we are currently investigating is whether the solar farm company is willing to move their meter down so that Eversource can accept the existing infrastructure with some improvements, but at a much lesser cost. So we're in the inquiry stage there. My client, as I stated in the email, has every intention of following through with this. Even if the first plan didn't work out, if he has to eat the $95,000, that's what he's going to do.
thank you. Questions from the board for Mr. Titlebaum? Mr. Baptiste?
Well, I think he's going to eat the 95,000 because, as far as I'm concerned, nowhere in hell we're going to release this covenant unless we see something in writing, because we've been lied to before. Your client is not, well, anyway,
Right.
I'm not going to say much more. I'm going to get myself in trouble.
I guess my question is, what's the timeline, Peter, on, because the second one obviously needs the cooperation of third parties and then approval by Eversource. What's your timeline on all of this? Because I'm looking at how long this has been awaiting a resolution.
It's been years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a definite answer. I know that we have the inquiry out there. I know that Mr. Churchill sent another inquiry, and we're hopeful for a response very soon. I would point out that there's nothing in the covenant that references this, and we've been operating in good faith here. I just got on board with this. I was vaguely familiar with what happened before, but I wasn't the attorney involved in that, or I don't even know if there was an attorney involved in that, to be honest with you. But, Mr. Churchill lives in the area. He does a lot of business with your board. He's not going to make a promise to these people and then renege on it. That's not good business, nor is it good morality.
Sam, do you have questions?
No.
Okay. Before we move into the next phase, Mr. Buckland, are you there?
He was.
He is. He's just trying to unmute.
I'm here.
Hi, yes, I'm going to ask a question to you. I don't know if this is expert testimony, so I don't know if I need to swear you in at this point. But Mr.
But this isn't a
Titlebaum...
hearing at this point.
Huh?
This is not a hearing at this point.
Great, okay, thank you. We're learning. So Mr. Titlebaum made the statement that the covenant does not cover the Squirrel Island poles. I read the covenant, and I think I agree with him. However, there was a lot of discussion and dependency at the time of the approval. What is the recommendation of the planning office regarding the covenant and the poles?
The recommendation is to release the covenant because the poles are not a requirement of the infrastructure for the subdivision. One of the things that I pointed out to Mr. Titlebaum was the court case of Northlanders versus the town of Falmouth, wherein the road outside of the subdivision was made to be improved because of the traffic that would be generated by the subdivision that would get onto the road and the condition of the road itself. So there is a capability of doing off-site improvements to the infrastructure in the area to support the subdivision. However, this isn't necessary to support the subdivision, but is to improve the administrative process that handles the electrical infrastructure. So in that case, I would say that the covenant could be released. You could put a bond on there if you want as well too to release the covenant. That's your option is available to you as well too.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Buckland?
Don't we have to provide public utilities?
Yeah, that they're not coming in on those poles. They ran poles directly to county, or
Squirrel-
whatever the name of the main road is.
Squirrel Island?
No, they ran out to
The main road.
Bearing
main
Hill.
road. Fearing Hill. Well, I can't, yeah, it's the road you live on, Fearing Hill.
Thanks.
Yes, remember they did a cut. They went out, so the subdivision is not using those poles.
Okay. Second, the proponent sat here and swore to us that they would be done before they wanted to release or start construction. It may not be in the covenant, but I was there, Mike was there, you were there. He swore to us it would definitely be done, and swore all the people out here in the audience that were relying on it. So I would not vote to
Okay,
release.
well, I'm going to look for a motion in
Okay.
a few minutes, but Julie, you have anything else? You've made your statement, right?
No, yeah, I made it.
Okay, so the process that we've used in the past and that I believe that we'll follow this time is I will look for a motion to recommend to the select board that they accept a bond. So the process would be, we recommend to the select board, they approve the bond in amount and form. Rich verifies that the bonding agency, or cash, if the applicant wants to put up cash, which doesn't take a lot, then it would come back to us, and at that time, we would vote to release the covenant. So the first motion tonight would be to recommend to the select board, and we're going to vote on this, so that we accept, or that they accept, a bond in lieu of the covenant in the amount of $237,997.94, which was the schedule of values prepared by Mr. Cordero. So I'm looking for a motion to recommend to the select board that they move on that bond. That's what I'm looking for. And then, once we have a motion and a second, we would vote on that. Do I have a motion? Okay, I do not
So
have a
moved.
motion.
You have the motion, so moved.
I think
Excuse me?
I think Jane just said so moved. Jane, did you just say so moved?
I did.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to recommend to the select board that they accept a bond of acceptable format in the amount of $237,987.94 and to release the covenant. I'm looking for a vote on that motion. Jane?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike Baptiste, no.
Sam Corbett, no.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. So that motion passes. Now, that doesn't release the covenant.
No.
That just gets the bond process
understand.
established. And then it will have to come back to us for further discussion. And I believe, okay, well, we don't have to discuss that until we release the covenant. So we need to forward this to the select board for, can you send a note to
Sure, yeah.
to Judith with our
I will, yeah.
our vote? Okay. And then for those of you who are passionate about the covenant, that will be at a future meeting. So this just gets the bond taken care of.
So the bond would need to be approved before we would vote on the release of the covenant, is that
Right,
correct?
we can't release the covenant until there is an acceptable bond,
Got it?
and the select board is the one who decides that. Okay. All right, so that motion is covered.
Yes.
And Mr. Titlebaum, if you could request that you and Mr. Churchill are here for the meeting when we discuss the covenant. I think it's important, if he, as you said, he's heartfelt commitment to resolve this issue. I think having him here and testifying to that it would be important for the board to hear.
Yes,
Thank you.
I agree. Helpful, and I'll certainly make that recommendation to him.
Thank you.
And thank you for your initial vote tonight as well.
And Ken, we only needed 3, right? We didn't, that's not a supermajority, right?
That's right. No, 3 is fine.
Okay. Okay. Copy, the note to Judith should also go to Rich, because Rich has to.
Yep, Rich
do the
Bowen.
bond.
Yep, will do. Yes, to approve the bond.
All right, the next item on the agenda. This is the beginnings of our discussion on procedural changes. The way in which applications were submitted in the past was manual, I'm going to say that, and sort of episodic. Josh is going to describe a process that we're going to move to using open.gov, or more colloquially known as Viewpoint, for processing the receipt of applications. He'll talk about the benefits, but one of the benefits is we'll have a visual checklist of the components of an application as they move through the process, and that will then give us a good view of where we're at and a starting point. So Josh, if you want to give us an overview of what I called Viewpoint.
Sure.
Just as a note, the planning board voted in May to accept this move, and we had planned to begin this June 1st. For a variety of reasons, process is a little slower than well, it just took more time. So Josh, if you want to give an update. And
Sure. Okay. And I'll try to keep this very brief. Okay, so I would say a lot of the town is already using Viewpoint as a permitting system that has been working well. The police department, conservation, inspectional services, they've already kind of adopted this, and it makes it a lot easier for applicants to know where they are in the process of the application, and it makes the general public more able to access the information associated with the project, whether they're searching it by street address, map and lot, or anything like that. So just starting out, here is the town's application webpage. You'll see that, all of the departments are here. Planning and zoning specifically, you would click here. It would bring you to another page where it kind of describes the planning board applications. We've looped planning and zoning in together because a lot of their permits and a lot of the processes that they go through are very similar. So you can find information on when the two boards meet, and then this is the actual permitting list of the town. You can see the Board of Health has quite a few, but planning and zoning are pretty simple right now, labeled planning and zoning appropriately. So you get into the planning application, and I won't go too far through this because there are checkpoints that you need to meet before you can move on to another page. But applicant, location, things like that. Anywhere that there is a little lock that is for departmental use only, so that those things aren't accessible by the public, but they are part of the application process, and as it moves through the process, they're important to get that information as well. So I'll use an example of a building permit, and I'm just going to pick one at random, not to single anyone out, but just to kind of give people an idea of the back end of these things. So we get details of the application. These are the yes or no check boxes that you would normally supply. Any attachments that come through, again, if there's not a lock box next to them, these are all public information, so you can find these under attachments. Activity feed is something that's on the back end. It's a lot of interdepartment use. But applicant and location are general information. And then moving on, this is the back end where the public doesn't see, but there's a whole list of processes that these applications go to before they actually get a final. And that's where we track a lot of these things. So you can see that I was assigned a conservation one where they require my review of the project. I would sign off on it. And then once all these items here are signed off on, it would go back to the building inspector for his initial review. So that's what we're planning on doing for planning and zoning. We have started it just initially with a few engineering companies, but we will get it posted to the town website, and it will be available for everyone to use moving forward.
So if I were a citizen, how would I go about finding this? Maybe you use the conservation webpages.
Sure.
How would I go about finding the status of an application and seeing comment and the materials?
Sure. So right now I'll go just to conservation, but I will set up a page for planning and zoning for this as well. On the conservation page, you'll see something labeled conservation projects. This is a how to access the viewpoint and how to search for a specific project. So that's the how to, but to quickly walk you through that, there's an access point here. It will open up search for public records. If you know the specific record title, you can type it in here, but I think a lot of people would generally know the address of a project. So knowing that you guys have 370 County Road on your agenda, for example, type in 370 County Road. And this will give you building permits, Board of Health permits, any permit that's public record, it will pop up here.
And in the future, if there was an application before us for a site plan, special permit, A&R, it would show up in that list.
Correct. So you would click on the specific permit you want to view. It gives you general information, applicant, location, when it was applied for, and details if they were filled out. And then under the files, that's where you would see any files pertaining to the project.
So that's what would have been on the web page in the past.
Correct. Correct. And then as far as reviewing any of these, let's see if I can find a site plan here. So here's a site plan. You can download it to your computer, or if you click version 1, it will open the PDF in an internet browser. And here is the full set of site plans for the project. And that will be available for any project moving forward, as long as it was applied for through the OpenGov system. There's probably going to be something to try to bring in backdated projects. We just don't have the bandwidth for it right now.
Okay, so when will you be requesting that applications be formatted or submitted in this way?
I think it's possible that we have the website updated so that it's clear to the applicants. I would say September 1st.
Okay. Thank you. Questions from the board?
Who's going to be responsible for the upkeep on the town side?
The same people who are responsible for upkeep of the applications currently. It's the planning office. It has no change. Normally, let's say you received a public comment letter and it was going to be added to the town website.
Yep.
Now it just gets added to the Viewpoint portal instead.
So it's going to be either you or Sonia, is that right?
Me, Sonia, hopefully if they bring on anyone
Well,
else.
hopefully soon.
Ken, maybe, if we can nail him down to put something in there, sure.
But it shouldn't be any more work than is involved in uploading it to the website. It's just uploading it to a different,
I just like to have a name. We had that issue in the past.
yeah.
Yep, it's
So-
a fair question.
Sonia is generally the point of contact for applications, right?
Yep.
And she needs to just redirect people back to the Viewpoint portal.
Yeah, I mean, you guys already have your rules and regs to email applications electronically. Now, instead of them being emailed, they're uploaded to Viewpoint. It's probably about the same amount of effort for an applicant to do either one.
Yeah, and most of the, this is a question, most of the engineering firms that come before the planning board are already doing this for Conservation Commission.
In this town and many others.
Yeah, but in our town, I'm just saying,
Yep.
Mr. Madden's group,
Yeah,
Mr. Churchill's group,
Conservation, the building department, yeah, they're familiar.
They're already doing this for
Yep.
those.
Yep. Some of the engineering companies are actually excited for you guys to move to this system.
Good.
Okay. Josh, also, sometimes you get documents that come in from various parties that are differently formatted, Microsoft, other Apple. So I assume all of that takes it in, and there have not been any issues, because it's been a process, a type of software that's been around for quite a while.
Yeah, I think as far as formatting goes, it's going to populate into the system the way that it would populate onto the website anyway. I would suggest that if people are sending us, letters of interest or anything, that they send them as a PDF.
Okay.
Sending
You
them
might
as a
wanna
Word document,
right.
someone could edit it. A
You might want
PDF
to
is,
instruct people to do
right.
that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Questions?
I think it's good.
Okay, Jane, any questions? Okay, so
I have one more
September.
question.
Oh, sure.
The planning/zoning, is it obvious what section you go to for zoning, what section you go to planning?
Okay, so when you click on the planning zoning part of it, we could separate it. It's not that hard to
For
do.
me, it would make it easier. It takes away one component of potential confusion.
Right.
Yeah, separating it is no problem.
That'd be,
it's
I
a
think it's,
click of a couple
I agree.
buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
okay,
Okay,
agree?
that's fine.
Okay,
And Josh has been very good, and it seems pretty flexible to make changes for procedural flows. The one thing, when we sat down, that I liked is that we can see an application going through the checklist and ensuring that all of the,
Right.
marks have been hit.
Yep, I think it's a great idea. I just think having the two separate would make it just take away any confusion possible.
Now, one of the good things that we're going to be able to see, because now everything is going to be tied to a property map and lot,
Yep.
you'll be able to see every zoning variance request, every building permit, every citizen's complaint, everything related to that property is now going to be collected in
Super.
one place. I think it's going to take us a bit to get it smoothed out, but I think it's progress. And
Do you
we're
know
not going
how
to...
far back those will go?
Jane, I'm
records?
sorry?
Do you know how far back those records will go?
Well, Josh said we're not focused on backfiling yet. We're going to look at going forward. They currently do go back for building permits and things like that. And Concom has been doing it for a year, so Concom records will already be there. But we're not going to, we don't have the staff, I think, is what Josh said, to
Right.
backfile at this point. So that's something that, Ken, do you have a thought on the timing of that?
On the back, well, we may be able to get an intern or two in to do some of the backlog of the previous applications and put them into the form as well.
Yeah.
It's a huge undertaking.
Yes, but
It is.
but if we could focus on improvement going forward, I think that's a positive step. And any other?
Why
I'm going to go
back?
out on a limb here and ask that all of the dates be year, month, day.
So
Moving
Josh,
forward.
if you could show the way that projects are going to be numbered, that we took care of that, but I think you'll see. Josh, just show them what we did, like Tony's Lane. You
Yeah.
should have a sample in there.
Sure. Okay, so searching a record.
Just type in, you should be able to say plan, right? Plan dash.
Yeah, let me pull it up by address. So
Okay,
6
6
Tony's Lane
okay.
was the Wareham
The
pollution
water
control
pollution, yes,
facility.
yes. So we did a test one.
So it generates on the map where it is. If you have to go and do a site visit, that's useful. It kind of tells you a lot of the planning permits. Anywhere that says historic permit is something that the building department has uploaded at some point. But specifically, we tested one of your planning applications. So,
So start with the number, which
yep, so plan dash year dash the number of applications you've had in that year is the formatting for that.
And that gets to your sorting issue. They'll now sort,
Yeah, can I add to that, that if there are anticipated that we have as many as 99 applications in a year, that be turned into 03, and if we have an excess of 100, that it be changed to 003, so that there are, the adequate number of places, and that this project 3 doesn't get sorted with the 30th ones,
All right.
for instance.
Josh, you can look at that, right? I
Yeah.
don't know if it truncates leading zeros or not.
So the building department definitely sees more than 100 in a year. So building 24 dash, let's say number 1.
Yeah, it's going to be sorted with 10, 11, 12. They're all going to be sorted together if you do one as one.
Right. I'll have to look into how we could process your request. It may not be something we can do, but
The system generates
I
that number.
only ask that because I tried to sort through and find a project from the old project list, and it was next to impossible. So, and it was the old one that had the year somewhere. The year was after the sequence number, and it was just really, really cumbersome. So,
All right, so we'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
We're constrained again by the system, but hopefully that's something that's possible?
I hope you guys don't see more than 100 projects in a year. You would be very busy if that was the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll take that as an action item, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we've already voted, we don't need to
Right.
take an action.
Good
So,
job.
Thanks, Josh, and Josh has put a lot of effort into this, and Sonia as well.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Great work.
All right, so anything else you'd like to add? So September 1st, so for our applications for the 12th, if there's any new business, hopefully we will see it in Viewpoint.
Yes.
I will take limited questions, so Nancy, if you'd come forward, introduce yourself. This is not a debate, but we can take some questions. Welcome. Please state your name.
Thank you. My name is Nancy McHale, and I thank you for the opportunity. Two questions. One, will the plans be linked between, say, conservation and planning and zoning and building, or would someone need to search all of those different departments?
If you go to the property, you will see all activity for that property. So any zoning applications, any planning, they're not linked, but they're all listed on the property under the records.
Okay,
So you will see activity at that property.
all right, which is terrific, thank you. The other question would be, if a citizen wanted to make some comments, what would the process be for getting those uploaded into the system as well? Or is that not an option at this point?
That, nothing has changed with that. You would
Right.
still send your comment to the planning office, as you do now, and it would then be loaded, rather than loaded to the website, it will get loaded here. So if you go out and look at a property, you will see pick a conservation project. Fearing Hill is not in there, so you can't go look at that one. But there are other conservation projects that are in there that you can see. Your comments will have been loaded.
No, that's fine, I was merely
But the process
wondering-
hasn't changed. You would send,
That's great, and I appreciate that. I was just wondering if there was a process for the citizens to upload themselves rather than burdening planning office with having to do that.
I think that might open chaos.
Would be chaos.
Just trying to, set some
I can only
guardrails.
imagine.
Okay, well, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Josh. I am going to use the chair's discretion. I would like to take item 5 on the agenda next, and then move on. This will all flow from that discussion. I had hoped to have copies for the public. I don't, but I will describe this, and it will be published. We are going to establish a planning board schedule and a procedural document. So what we're going to publish, and this is discussion, I'm presenting it to the board tonight, but we have all the planning board meeting dates that for the rest of the year, and then for next year, we'll go out and publish it. And then what we've established is 6 weeks prior to that date, applications need to be completed in order to be considered on that date. So, for example, for our meeting on September 9th, we will only be able to consider completed applications, and this is transitional, so don't freak out, but received by July 29th. And that would be site plan, special permit, subdivision, preliminary, or mods to those plans. Things like A&Rs, or other things that crop up, but things that require public hearing, peer review, need 6 weeks to be processed. So, and we will have published those dates. So you will be able to see on the website, if you want to be on a hearing for for September 9th, you've got to have your plan complete in the system by, in this case, July 29th.
It's on the screen, Carl.
Oh, thanks, Josh. That's great. I didn't realize. See, all is good. So we're going to follow this schedule going forward. In addition, there's some notes at the bottom, but again, focusing on those applications that need public hearing. The reason we need 6 weeks is mathematical. Once the application's complete, town boards have 21 days to review and comment. We cannot schedule the public hearing until that 21 days has passed. So that's 3 weeks. Then we need 2 weeks to schedule a public hearing. That gets us to 5 weeks. And there's a week of slough in there, 6 weeks. So that's how we established this schedule. The good news is, and I'll talk about another change we're going to make, is now that we have submission deadlines, I would like to add, or I'm going to add, a standing agenda item for every meeting that looks at Josh and Sonia and says, and then at this calendar, Josh, Sonia, what applications have been completed as of this date? So the submission deadline dates are Monday nights to align with our meetings. So at our meeting, we'll review what applications are complete. We'll get the list. We'll then, and then I'm going to talk about this in a moment, we'll take a vote to fund the 53G account. And Ken, we used to take votes to fund 53G accounts. We stopped doing that. I'll talk about that procedure. So whatever case, that will then enable the town engineer to do a peer review. And then we will also schedule the hearing that night. We'll vote to schedule, if it's meeting date August 12th today, Josh, are there any new applications that are completed tonight? We would then vote to schedule that for the meeting of September 23rd. Then everyone knows the application's complete, peer review is going to begin. The first hearing should be the 23rd, barring other unforeseen circumstances. And we will do that at every meeting administratively, so we can keep a rolling calendar going forward of what's on our workload. And when we look at the 23rd, we may decide that we can't actually schedule it for that night for some other reason. So, for example, October 28th is town meeting. We may have a very small planning board meeting, but we're not going to schedule any hearings or public hearings for that night. So we're going to get that process going. The other thing I'm going to remind applicants is Section 1562, which strongly suggests and requires a pre-application review. That's in the zoning bylaws. Our rules and regulations also require, is a strong word, a pre-application review. So the question that we'll ask on the submission deadline nights, Josh, is the application complete? And if 6 weeks later we get there and we find problems with the application, we're going to immediately either continue it or reject the application. The applications need to be complete. So we're going to add the standing agenda item. Applicants are strongly encouraged to do pre-application reviews with the planning office, and hopefully we can move into that process. Now, I saw Annie had a question. Again, very limited. This is not public debate or discussion or public hearing. I will answer a limited number of questions.
Can I just add a couple of points on what you just said?
Hang on a minute, Annie.
And if you could, the concept that we're introducing is that of a completed application. We've had challenges in the past where we get to a hearing and not everything that we expect or is on our checklist is with the package. So this is really going to help us make sure that when we schedule the public hearing, everything from the plans, from engineering reports, from a title review, everything that we need is is there in front of us, and obviously public record as well. So we feel that will really help streamline some of the delays, the process, some of the delays you're seeing. We're hoping that will help alleviate those as well.
Thank you.
Annie Hayes, Carl, and so I'm thinking that this is not related to the new possibilities with the state regs where there's a cutoff date for the months before permitting, et cetera.
I'm not sure what you're asking. These all align with the current timing, right, the 65 days to hear, these all align with the
State
law.
law.
I understand that, the pre, but the state is talking about 12 months before a permit must be denied or given.
You're talking about solar projects only.
Well, that's one of the projects, right?
Yes, that hasn't been approved.
Right, okay, so it's just the same as before, except tidier and neater,
Yes.
right?
And these timelines, we had to meet anyway. It's just now making
Right.
everybody openly aware of the
Yeah.
schedule.
And consequences, if you don't submit a completed application, we will not schedule a hearing. So that is going to help, again, what happens when people appear and they don't have everything that we need.
So public hearings could be continued
That
ad
nothing-
nauseum, nothing changes.
Nothing, and that changes.
Thank you.
This is just the upfront. Discussion from the board? Mike?
In the event that they miss the deadline, or have an incomplete application, I would vote to deny, as opposed to go to this continuous forever.
Well, we could take that.
I know, I just hope the board takes a strong stand on it.
Right.
Yes, but we'll take that as they come up. But at least now
I agree 100%, Carl.
we will
I'm
have
just-
communicated this
Right.
as best we can up front.
I agree 100%. I'm just letting you know, I'm not going to be willing to go on and on any longer. A vote to deny. That's my motion every damn time, just so people know.
Okay.
So
So,
hopefully the board will support me.
And Carl, one more thing. This is really, the burden is on the applicant relative to the application. This is not about our citizens submitting comments or whatever they would like to do.
Right.
So this is really making sure the
The permitting
applicant
process.
what-
is prepared.
Josh, if you scroll to the bottom, there is one note for our citizens. We have been for years trying to say we're not going to accept any evidence for a Monday meeting after, we're now, and by the way, that email address is wrong, I got to fix it. But we cannot hear on a Monday night meeting material that came in after noon on Wednesday. It just doesn't get to us.
Can I make a motion that we do not accept any new material after Wednesday at noon?
That's what that,
It's a motion.
Well, I'd like to add to that,
wait.
if I may.
We have you want to add
Motion
to
on the
that
floor.
motion?
I think you
No,
want to
I
discuss it
would-
before we do the
Well,
motion.
We have motion, second, discuss.
Second.
Okay,
Okay, we got a second.
second.
We have a motion, second, and then Jane, if you want to make change the motion, now's the time to do that. Or do you want to discuss?
No, I don't want to change the motion. I just wanted to add something to, or just put a thought out there that people should not be reluctant to submit stuff after that deadline. It just won't be considered until the next meeting.
Correct.
Right. And we may close the hearing on that Monday night, and it will not then be.
We may, but that shouldn't tell people that they may not
No, I'm not
submit
saying you
something.
can't submit it. It just,
Yeah.
Right.
that's
It
getting
just
it on the
won't,
record.
whether or not it's considered is up for grabs.
Right. So we have a motion and a second.
Correct.
To adopt 12 noon on Wednesday before a scheduled meeting for any material to be entered into the record at that meeting on Monday. I'm looking for a vote. Jane?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mr. Baptiste?
Baptiste, aye.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Marie and I.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, Annie, do you have a quick question?
It's always been Thursday at noon.
I
and the-
changed, we just changed
Okay,
it.
the reason was the agenda, it's good to see the agenda before you submit a comment.
Except Now what we've told you is 6 weeks in advance of the meeting, we're going to have, we have already, they're tied together. I
thank
didn't,
you. That makes
we
sense.
thought of those things. Now, you may not know about like an A&R or things like that. We don't usually get a lot of comments on A&Rs, but
Okay, great, thank you.
Just to let the public know, my personal way of handling this is I don't even open them any longer. I mean, we used to get them at 4:45 and expect us to read it, understand it, and then discuss it half an hour later. So if it comes in Wednesday afternoon, I don't open it. After a meeting, I'll open it and get ready for the next meeting.
okay. It just
Just try and make it
should make everything work better.
right.
We're trying, that's the goal. And if we find that something in this isn't working, it's not carved in stone yet.
And I guess too, this is not a novel concept. Many communities in Massachusetts handle it this way, so much of this comes from all of our research, our experience with other communities as well.
Okay. Now, I'm going to close any more discussion on item 5, which, okay, moving on to item 4. A change that we're going to make to facilitate this is at the time that the application is complete, we're going to request that the 53, for those accounts that we normally for those applications that we would normally establish a 53G account, that they get established at that time. And that will enable us to have our consulting engineer begin the review, and that gives you 6 weeks with the consulting engineer and the applicant's team to perfect anything that isn't quite right. Because often for those of you who've been coming to these meetings forever, the first meeting often is, has Phil looked at the plan yet? Okay, no. Well, then we're not going to do anything until he looks at the plan. And that just adds, we're trying to put that delay in the beginning of the process, not in the middle of the process. That's our goal. It doesn't mean that things won't happen, but that's the attempt. Now, regarding the establishment of 53G accounts, Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 44, Section 53G of the Municipal General Law allows towns to create, and it describes, I'm not going to read unless somebody wants me to read the whole law. Concom can establish them, ZBA can establish them, zoning board can establish them, I believe select board can establish them, I don't know that they do, but that allows the boards to hire professional consultants to advise on applications, particularly where we don't have areas of, and Mr. Cordero, who, I don't know if he's here this evening, and Mr. Rowley in the past. That's how those gentlemen were paid to work for us. On some of the solar projects, we've had battery experts and other testimony. So that gives the board and the community input on the application and the project. One of the things Mr. Cordero also does, along with the planning office, is review the applications more or less for completeness and alignment with the bylaws. His original preliminary review is often talks about, does it meet the bylaw requirement in his recommendation to us. So during that 6 weeks, the applicant, Mr. Cordero, can perfect their application so that when we get here, there aren't any missed issues with the bylaws. So I would like to move forward, and we are legally allowed to do this, so I'm going to defer to, Josh and I have talked. Mr. Buckland, do you have any concerns with doing this?
No, not at all, except that I would suggest that you put this into the rules and regulations as a preliminary fee that gets paid as part of the application fees, so that they can be established right at the time of the application.
So that means I need to schedule a public hearing for this one change?
That's correct. You could have other changes in there as well, too, but that would be a good one to put in for rules and regulations.
Okay.
Well, there's some other changes you want to make. We could do it
Yeah, we could. but-
Piggyback.
Yeah, but even if we don't put it in the regulations, the day after the application, at that meeting that night, we could vote to authorize the funding of the 53G account under the current
Yes, you
rules and
could.
regulations.
Yes, you could, and that would give them enough time to review it and to have a meeting with
Right.
the applicant as well, too.
Yeah, so it does, so we'll work on coordinating with you to get a public hearing, Josh, to make the change to that chain. We'll come up with the right wording.
Okay.
But in the meantime, when we're reviewing applications at the meeting, and we used to vote on authorizing the 53G account.
Because it became a constant, we just asked for the 53G estimate from Mr. Rowley or Phil Cadero, and then we took the money in and started the process.
Right.
This just formalizes it and puts it into the record.
Right, and I did speak with Mr. Cudero, and Allen and Majors sort of has a standard. They don't estimate each project. If it's a site plan review, he has a budget. If it's a special permit, if it's a solar project, they have a standard funding request to start the process. So we can use that schedule of values to get going. And as the applicants know, the citizens may not, any funds that are not used are returned to the applicant. They're not kept by the town, that returned with
This-
interest. Not that you earn much interest on money in the bank today, but, all right, so Ken, I'll work with you and Josh to get the public hearing scheduled.
Yeah, I'd like to add that at that time, when you actually vote to schedule the hearing for the applications that are complete, you may at that time recommend some additional 53G account for some specialty like a hydrogeo
Right.
evaluation or a battery energy storage system evaluation. Those are items that come up that aren't necessarily consistent in all applications, but are seen as necessary for certain ones that come before you.
Good. So we can work on that. Now, and I'll work with you guys on scheduling the public hearing. I will not be at the next meeting, but we'll figure out how to do that. And then I'll work with you on the wording that we want to add, what we're going to vote on. And then I'll work with you and Josh and Sonia to add a new standing agenda item so that every meeting we check what's coming in and we work the schedule.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we're going to move to get the 53G account established earlier in the process as soon as we can.
And amend the rules and regs
And Amanda,
promptly to make sure we cover
We'll need
that.
to get a
Yep.
public hearing scheduled, so you and Jane can
Can
work on
get to
helping.
work on that.
And
Okay.
then we'll figure out if there's any immediate things we need to bring forward.
Right. And I'm glad, Ken, that you made that point. It's really not just engineers. Battery storage, some of the things that are challenged, we can, because really what the statute says, really it covers any of your obligations under the law. So
Yeah.
it gives us some leeway to be able to bring in some experts.
Great, that's a great extension. My focus was getting Phil started right away, but,
Yep, yeah.
okay. Any more discussion on the 53G account?
I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but what about old accounts? Cleaning up the old ones?
That's administrative that Sonia should be bringing forward to us as she's ready to clear them up.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for a while. I'd like an update.
Thoughts? She was working on that. I don't know where we're at on that.
Yeah, I would say that there are 53G accounts in the town accounts that are decades old.
No.
I mean, a good process would be an applicant understands their project is over, they request that we release the funds. I bet a lot of these applicants don't even know that,
Right.
one, they're entitled to the funds that are there, or how much is left.
Is there a way we could take a fund that's decades old and just write it off?
Yeah.
Yes, there is. Yeah, we can do that with the accounting office and the. One of the problems with some of the old ones is the person that the money came from is long gone or even deceased in some cases.
I agree, but let's We've been talking about this process for quite a while. I'd like to put it on the agenda as a standing item, if possible, Carl, so we can stay on top of it. And we have accounts that are pluses, Ken, and minuses.
That's correct. We do have some that there's money owed. And we've been trying to get that money back before, unsuccessfully. Again, with some cases where the original owner has disappeared.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So that closes the discussion on item 5, unless I hear any minimal, 53G accounts don't generally apply to the public. I don't know, Jillian, or do you have any questions, or? Huh? Okay. Joe, did you have any questions on the public 53G account? Okay. I didn't think so, but I thought I'd give you an opportunity. Okay, moving on. Okay, I got 3 status update items, and then we'll move into the public hearing. Josh, I think these are your items to talk to us about. Are you going
Sure.
to address them, or are you going to
Yeah, okay, so
forward, or are you going to testify from there? You going to sit there?
do you want me to stand and,
No, you don't have to swear in.
Concom made me, so I didn't know if you wanted to take the same approach.
If you testify on the hearings, we will.
Understood.
Okay, so we have been working with Mike and I were working with the planning. We have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the solar list. 7 solar decommissioning bonds that have either expired or are about to expire this year. Can we get a status? So the projects that I show are 21 Squirrel Island Road, that was 2616, that expires this year. 77 Farm to Market Road, number 1918, expired last year. I'm only talking about decommissioning bonds. 0 Charlotte Furnace Road, number 2018, expired in 2019. 160 Tohonet Road, 2118, expired in 2023. Also listed as 160 Tohonet Road, 2318, expired in 2022. 299 Farm to Market Road, 0219, expires this year. And 71 Charlotte Furnace Road, number 2018. That was a duplicate project number with a different address in 2023. So if you could, and any others, that if you could give us a status on negotiating the new standard. As you know, the planning board has been trying to establish a standard value for commissioning bonds. If you look at the decommissioning bonds we've got over the years, they were estimated all over the place. Every engineering firm came forward with their own formula. We are pushing, that's something we can put in the rules, we're pushing a standard formula so that all decommissioning bonds are calculated the same way based on the NREL recommendations as the best that we were able to find for any standard. So if you could give us an update on those bonds?
Yep, so, we have some that are expired that we haven't seen any movement on. I have drafted a letter for the planning board. I'll pass those out. It's basically a notice of violation. Hey, your bond's expired or soon to be expired. Come and update it, or risk us pulling the permit and you being in violation.
Can we add language that says the planning board is establishing a standard based on this? So that all,
They should know the formula that we're using.
right. Yeah. So that it makes everybody's on the same field.
Exactly.
And it's not arbitrary, it's or capricious. So, another question, either to you, Josh, or Mr. Buckland. Who in town is responsible for tracking, administering bonds? It's certainly not the planning board's responsibility to do this, although we're, as interested citizens, we do. Who, is it the select board that owns, I mean, as they approve the bonds, do they own these bonds?
No, they do not.
John?
So it's the planning board's responsibility to track the bonds we set?
That's correct.
Okay, well, we're going to do it. Thank you. It's clear. If it's our job, we're going to do it.
And we're going to do it soon.
Well, so the first step, Josh, is to send these demand letters.
Yeah, and you guys can review them, give me your opinion of them, and I'll amend them as needed.
Okay.
You-
So my suggestion is we tell them what the standard is, but,
Sure.
Correct. You both are working on the same list, the same 7 properties.
yes. And there, Ken did, and I'll get this published, Nancy and Ken, back when the Solar Bylaw Committee, we've summarized all, Excel spreadsheet that lists all the existing or pending solar projects. Ken updated this spreadsheet. I was going to copy it and hand it out, but it exists, and we could get this made available to citizens if you want to see it. But this is the list that we're working from, and right now, there are 28 approved or pending solar projects in town. And actually, if you wanted to, you could add up all the acres that represents. But I think it's close to 600 acres.
Carl, could you send that to me, please?
I will,
That would be good if you could.
yes. And then, Josh, if we could get this posted somewhere as a PDF on the website.
Sure.
I'd like to point out that this list is only the ones that are permitted as being larger than 250 kilowatts. It doesn't include the smaller scale projects that aren't permitted.
Correct. We're focused on large-scale ground-mounted solar arrays. That's what this is a list of. Doesn't cover arrays on people's houses, or it doesn't cover the one that the Y did. Those were all as-of-right installations. So yes, there's a lot more solar in town than what's on this list.
I'd also suggest a courtesy copy to their council. That tends to get a faster reaction sometimes than the,
A courtesy copy of what?
of this NOV notice of violations to their
yes.
council.
Okay, that's for Josh. Okay, thank you.
John Foster would like to do all that.
Okay, any other discussion? So the next step is to send a notice of violation. And we'll get a copy to Mr. Bowen as well, correct?
Sure.
I mean, he should be aware as our town council that there's,
It was his idea to draft the letter.
okay, good. Okay. So the planning board understands it's our responsibility to track these bonds that we put out there, performance bonds, and we have been doing a fairly reasonable job of that. So we just got to stay on top of it.
You have it.
Can you take a vote on that as well?
Say that again, Ken?
Can you take a vote on that as well?
What do you want me to vote on?
Vote to send a notice of violation.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to send notice of violation to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is how many you've got? The 7 projects I read into the record earlier, to authorize Josh to send the notice of violation.
So moved.
So, sorry, one clarification. We talked about expired or about to expire.
Right.
Are you going to send the same letter, the notice of violation, which if it hasn't expired, you might want
good
to
point.
just think about
Language
that.
would be different.
Yeah.
That's a good
yeah,
point.
Yep, okay.
My draft letter right now says your bond is expired or soon to be expired.
Okay.
I'll separate them into 2
If you
letters
could,
if that's
I
what
just-
you want.
Okay.
Just a clarification.
I think all the ones that I listed as soon to be expired in May, I
Okay.
think.
So there are possibly 7 expired and
Possibly
not
7.
soon to expire. Gotcha.
But we'll double check that. We'll just make sure we don't tell them it's expired if it hasn't.
Sure. It's changing a Word document, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you. So I have a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second?
So we have a motion to authorize Josh to send these 7 notice of violations regarding solar decommissioning bonds. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Jane? Jane, are you frozen? No. Are you there? I'll come back to
Jane
Jane.
Gleason, aye.
Aye, good. Okay, the boat is rocking too much. You're like,
Jane Gleason, aye.
okay, we got that, Jane. Jane, Mike Baptiste?
Mike Baptiste, aye.
Sam Corbett?
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Josh. Along with our responsibility to maintain bonds and et cetera, I think on our early July meeting, may have been in June, we authorized establishing a bond for Bay Point Phase 1 for the remaining work. Can you tell me the status of getting that bond established?
We haven't seen a bond yet.
Did we send a notice to them that we require a bond?
I have the letter for you guys to sign this evening.
Okay, great, so we'll sign that as well. Great, I'm looking for a
Is
motion.
it time, is a time attached to that?
I haven't seen the letter yet, so
I'll revise the letter.
Okay, time specific. I don't,
Sure. What do you want?
I'm not going 60 days or 6 months again.
so what would you, all of these, then you could put a time, what would you like to see in the time?
15 days.
Discussion, is that reasonable? That's-
I'm trying to
I
push
don't
them.
know as much of the history on Bay Point, but I've heard enough
well,
to
but this would then
understand
apply-
there's,
We would apply the same concept.
there's unhappiness around that. I mean, but my thought would be 30 days, because generally it can take some time, but I would say be clear what happens after 30 days.
Okay,
But
that's fine.
that would, so then there's really no,
So
30
what-
days is a
My
reasonable
motions
time.
get, with Bay Point, they get a little
Yeah,
high.
yeah.
So what, I don't know what consequence we have at this point if they don't establish the bond. I don't know that,
Look at the decision.
well.
Can we attach this to other phases?
We've been advised that the phases are all separate legal activities and that we can't do that. So we have limited recourse. Well, the one recourse that we have is, and I think this is still the case, is that we voted to release $800,000 for Phase 2. The Select Board has not taken that up yet, pending this issue. So that's a little bit of leverage. So they can keep it off the agenda pending this resolution of this item.
Can they make that an official motion and attach it?
I don't know about that. I don't know the
Yes,
whole
counsel.
process for that, or the council's involved.
But if we can attach them,
I don't know if we can.
okay?
But let's put 30 days, and so,
Yeah, to be consistent in the future, just let my emotions calm down a bit.
okay, so I have a motion to put a time frame on the notice to Bay Point of 30 days. Motion and a second by Julie Moran. All in favor, starting with Ms. Gleason?
It's frozen again.
She's frozen. Mike, I'll go to you. And
Baptiste, aye.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
Jane, are you back? Or are you still frozen?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Aye, there we go. And the chair votes aye.
Jane Gleason, aye.
Great,
Hopefully
thank you. No, we got you,
That's
thank
the
you.
first time.
for the
Josh, can you print, you could print one of these, right, with an updated one? With a new date on it? So we can sign it for you tonight?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
it won't, no.
all right, then just let us know and we'll
Yeah.
come in the office
Come
and
into
sign
it.
it.
Yep.
Okay, last item. I know you've been working, so at the Fall Town Meeting 2023, several significant updates to our zoning bylaws were passed. The AG took quite a long time to review it, but finally, I think approved most of it. There were some, she had some notes and comments. Josh has been trying to update the version so that it's published. So can you just, I know you're
Yeah.
working nights and,
No, it's from my perspective finalized. Ken's gonna give it a once over to review that it's actually ready. Once he gives it his once over, I think there's probably just gonna be a little bit of formatting because of how pages break in it. But after that, it will be ready for, I believe you guys actually have to have a public hearing to accept it. No, you've already done that, sorry. You've
It
already,
was really voted on at town meeting, and all we're doing is codifying the AG's feedback.
Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they actually have to post that it's being adopted and being acted on.
The town clerk has to post it, and the town clerk has already done that based on the AG's letter to the town.
Thank you.
Okay, but we can hold once you're ready, we can present it to the public at large in a broad format, and we can just summarize some of the changes. Mostly, it was changes around site, I could speak, site plan, special permit processing, and clarified some things and some confusion in the use tables. But that, you can go back to the town meeting for the fall, and that's where it was presented and voted to approve. Thank you.
Comment. Josh is going to planning board meetings, ZBA, conservation. He's basically doing 3 people's jobs right now, and no offense.
No?
Things are going to fall through the cracks. I wish we could get an update on where we are on getting some help in the planning board office. I don't know if we could do this officially or what we can do, but the planning department is about to sink. We don't have enough personnel to do the job. And Josh, that's all you hear. Josh is only one person, and we need an update as far as what we're doing. Is it working? They need to do something different.
I can tell you anecdotally, I've raised that with the town administrator, and I've been assured there's no problems in the planning office.
He should go there someday. I mean, seriously, I mean,
I
it's
can
Josh, and it's if I was Josh, I'd start looking.
I believe as citizens or as individuals, we can voice our concerns. If you would like to make a motion and take an action to summarize the concerns that the planning board has, we can send a letter to the town administrator.
I would love to make that motion.
And, okay, and going back to you, who's going to do it? Are you going to work to write that summary?
Sure.
Okay, so I have a motion for Sam Corbett to summarize the planning board concerns about the level, what do you say, the level of staffing, or?
Yes.
And then with some examples of the impact to send to the town administrator.
Yep.
With a copy to Mr. Buckland.
Yep.
For sure. And I think we should make sure that before we send it, that Ken and Josh at least know what we're going to
Absolutely.
send.
Yep.
That would be my request.
Yep.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Jane?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike Baptiste, aye.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. And if possible, perhaps we could have this on the agenda for the 26th. I won't be here, but you can communicate with me by mail. So, Josh, if you could have Sonia add that to the agenda for the 26th, Mr. Corbett will present the letter, and we could vote to approve and send it. I will be here all the way up until the 24th. I just won't be here
Sure.
on the 26th.
All right, we'll get it before you leave.
Great. And I have some examples if you'd like to add of.
I'd love all the
I mean,
examples.
Yeah, I was
for
going to say,
example,
you feel free to circulate it among the planning board as well.
Jane, Michael, Josh, anybody, public, anybody who has any input, happy to have it.
Okay,
More the merrier.
good, okay.
Good work.
Josh, thank you for all your hard work. And Ken,
No,
I know that you're
I'm
retired.
not just trying to help.
You're retired, but thanks for all your continued hard work. I know that you're limited to the number of hours you're able to put in by your contract, but, and Sonia as well.
Sonia as well, exactly. Nothing to
it's-
do with those 3 folks. It's just a shortage of hands.
And just our last meeting was an example. We had things that we couldn't do because they weren't able to get done before the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Sam. I just don't have time to write the
I know.
letter between now and my next vacation. All right, moving on to public hearings. The first public hearing, continued public hearing, 1222 Wareham MA3 LLC, 91-101 Fearing Hill Road, site plan review, map 91 and 71, lots 1,1007, proposing a ground-mounted solar array generation facility. One note to Ms. Papalardo regarding those map and lot references. There was a subdivision plan that was filed that may have impacted those, but that's the title we've been carrying it on, and it's the same project. And when we do the final approval, we'll have that all reconciled. Welcome, Mr. Shanahan.
Mr. Chairman, congratulations in order or condolences?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Joe Shanahan, Senior Manager for Project Development for RWE Clean Energy, which owns this application before the board. I'm here for two matters tonight, the first of which, Mr. Chairman, at my last appearance, you asked that I submit a full copy of the Public Archaeological Laboratory report with regard to historic, archaeological, and cultural resources.
Right.
So I'll do that before I leave tonight for you.
Okay.
You may be the only one that reads it, but you're welcome to it.
But he will
Okay.
read it.
Oh, I know he will. I know he
So
will.
just do me a favor, for Patty, who's our minute taker, can you read the title and the date of that document for the record?
Happy to.
Mr. Shanahan is introducing a document to the public record.
The title is Technical Report, Intensive Locational Archaeological Survey, Fearing Hill Road Solar Project, Wareham, Massachusetts, submitted by the Public Archaeology Laboratory, Inc. And it's dated November 2023.
Thank you. And before you proceed, are you going to give any expert testimony this evening? Or just talk about the application per se?
Just talk about the application.
So Ken, do I need to swear Mr. Shanahan in? Did Ken
No, you
leave?
don't.
No, if you get to the point where you're making a technical representation.
It won't.
Okay.
I can assure you.
Yes.
The second matter may not surprise the board at this particular point because we've been unfortunately through this once before. But with Michael King's resignation from the board, this board is now back down to 4 voting members in connection with this long pending application. And as I think all of you are aware, in order for the project to be acted upon favorably, it requires a supermajority, 4 out of 4 voters. As we dealt with previously when Mr. Swenson left the board, I'm here this evening to ask the board to allow me to withdraw the current application and resubmit the exact same application again and schedule it for public hearing in order that there are 5 voting members of the planning board. And I have a letter requesting that this evening. Ken and I have been through this before. He and I have talked about this before I came in this evening. I'll certainly work with Josh, I imagine, to make that happen. But basically what we did in the past, and I think works again, because this is so long pending and the file is so extensive, that we simply refile the exact same application. It will receive a new project number because of when it's being filed, but the entire contents of the current file will transfer over into that new file as part of the new public hearing.
So a couple of questions before we
Certainly.
take the matter up. Thank you for your summary. Can you bring us to date on where the court case with conservation is?
Well, actually, be more accurate, there are 2 cases. Conservation Commission denied the project under the local wetlands bylaw, and we appealed that to Superior Court. They denied it under the State Wetlands Protection Act, and we appealed that to the DEP. DEP overturned the conservation denial, and then a 10 residents group filed an appeal to the DEP approval. So that's where we are with that. The Superior Court case is still pending. Our attorneys have had some conversation with the town attorney, Richard Bowen, and there has been an agreement by the Conservation Commission, its agent, and Attorney Bowen to meet with us on the Superior Court case, as, by the way, is required by the court schedule. So that's where we are with that.
Great, and nothing that we do with your application before us impacts any of that, so nobody has to worry about any of
Correct.
that.
Correct.
Okay. Before moving further, I'm going to read to the record Section 16 of Chapter 40A. Any petition for a variance or application for a special, this is Mass General Law, I'm sorry, Section 16, Chapter 40A. Any petition for a variance or application for a special permit which has been transmitted to the permit granting authority, that would be us, or special permit granting authority, that would be us again, may be withdrawn without prejudice by the petitioner prior to the publication of the notice. That is not the case here of a public hearing thereon, but thereafter be withdrawn without prejudice only with the approval of the special permit granting authority or the permit granting authority. So I'm going to, that's the law we're operating under. I have a question from two questions for Mr. Buckland. Is that just a simple majority or a supermajority vote?
Simple majority.
Simple majority.
Administrative work.
Okay, and then as we have an open public hearing, before considering the petition to withdraw, do I have to allow public comment, or do I close the public hearing and move forward on this?
You can close the public hearing and move forward on it.
So, okay, all right. We're not going to take any new testimony or evidence on this application. So this is a procedural issue, so I don't see that public comment for the record on this application is relevant because we're not going to process it. I don't know, Ken, is there anyone in the audience who's just have evidence that would bear on this decision? All right, I'm going to hear limited testimony. Limited. I understand your concern. I want to make sure that everybody, so gentleman who raised his hand may come forward, and we'll hear what you'd like to say, and we'll decide if we're going to hear it.
Mr. Chairman, may I make these submissions?
Oh, yes, please. Can you just give them to Josh? He'll get me copies.
Oh, Josh, I've heard that name before.
A lot of people have.
All right.
Thank you.
This needs to be directly relevant to the open application, and your name and what are you going to speak to?
My name is Don Jepson. I'm Precinct 3. At the last meeting, when there was an open hearing, this discussion came up on, so this is not a repeat. This is bringing back some information that Mr. Corbett said. He wanted to have information and facts, and the discussion was brought up about the forever chemicals and how they are being used. And so, as a fact, what I would like to, I did some research on this. What's taken place
Wait,
up...
can I stop you there? So what I'd like to suggest to you, before, I'll make the suggestion, and if you're going to introduce new testimony about forever chemicals, the applicant is going to refile, and I suggest that the proper time to submit that new evidence would be under that case.
Okay, if you
So
think-
I'm not saying you're not going to get the chance to submit it, but if you submit it now, then the procedure is going to have to be, it has to get voted to roll over, get pulled in. I'm recommending, and I'm going to give you the choice, that you wait for the new application.
We'll go with your suggestion. Thank you.
But you're going to be heard. That's what I'm assuring you.
Yeah, no, what I have is important, and I am following up on what Mr. Corbett was asking for, which is facts, and that's what I would
That's what we
provide
need.
at the correct time.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this is not really for debate, but I'll listen. Mr. Lintel, do you have something you'd like to say? This is not a debate, because the law says he has the right to do this.
What I have to say is just a summing up of this thing. There's no new facts, just a statement of summing up,
Okay,
ending this, if I may.
well, I'll listen to where you're going.
Okay, we'll go from there. Okay. Eric Lintela, 15 Squirrel Island Road. Since this project first was presented by Mr. Shanahan, he has consistently reminded the planning board about their duty to follow the bylaws governing the Fairing Hills Solar Project. Along with protecting the rights of the solar company, the bylaws clearly states to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the environment and the citizens of Wareham.
So, Mr. Lintel, I'm going to interrupt you now.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you the same advice that I gave this gentleman. One of the new processes that we talked about introducing was the solicitation of findings of fact,
Yes.
which sounds like you're beginning to do. I'm going to read something which is, I'm going to give you again the opportunity that I gave the other gentleman. I have to bring up a couple of things here. I was going to talk. Okay. A change in the procedure that we're going to implement when we bring projects to a close, particularly contentious projects like this one, contentious, long-running. The planning board is going to provide you, the citizens, the applicant, with the opportunity to suggest findings of fact, findings, in connection with the decisions that we need to make in the matter at hand. Findings must be submitted to the planning board electronically no later than the date we will establish at the close of the hearing, and with a specific subject line, proposed findings of fact, listing the project number, project title, and the application, which you can generally get from our agendas. Okay, so use the subject line from our agenda to say you're submitting findings of fact. The submission should be in or accompanied by an electronically editable version in Microsoft Word. The proposed findings shall take the form of individual numbered paragraphs. Each numbered paragraph should set out a distinct factual proposition and cite the portion of the case record which supports such proposition and the conclusion in law. Please note, therefore, that a proposed finding is not an occasion to provide new evidence. So when I request findings of fact, I'm not looking for new testimony. And I'm not going to accept new testimony. But should be drafted to identify and summarize existing, previously submitted evidence that you believe is relevant to a particular desired case outcome, which it sounds to me like you're beginning to do. Let me finish, and then
Sure.
I'll let you rebut. The planning board reserves the right to use any, all, or none of the proposed findings. The way they'll be used is each proposed finding will be presented as a motion and voted on, yes or no. Please also note that this invitation is not intended to confer upon you or anyone any legal standing in the case beyond that which might currently exist, and is offered to you only as a courtesy and as an occasion for you to advise the planning board in its important work. So that's a new process we're going to implement at the end of discovery, as it were. And it sounded to me like you're beginning to do that. Some other comments I want to make regarding that is findings of facts should be based on baseline details, what's already in evidence. Local zoning criteria must be relevant to our zoning bylaws or statutory criteria, how the state criteria is satisfied. That's what a finding of fact is. And you can influence it with your I can say this word, familiarity with local conditions. And I'm refining this letter, it will be an open letter to the public, which I'll work with Josh to post it. Hang on. So basically, your submission should be,
Carl, can you move your mic closer?
oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying, the other thing is rather than every individual citizen in town sending individual, I urge you to collaborate with like-minded individuals to get a concise document, if possible. And we'll establish a timeframe for summarizing that for this new application. Does what I read for you meet your desire to communicate?
It's a lot to swallow.
Again,
Let me, how about I'll just sort of read the ending of this then, and that kind of maybe will...
thank you. I want to assure everyone, this is a new process.
Yeah.
People, we want concise distillation of facts that we should be considering,
Yeah.
not new testimony. And at this point, we've closed this hearing. We're going to close this hearing, so.
Right, so I'll just read the last paragraph
Thank you.
I've gotten, maybe that'll
Thank you.
be okay. So, this project is not in my backyard. I have one in my backyard, which is a short distance across the street from Faring Hill, and so several other residents on the road also. Think about the risks that the residents and the adjacent wetlands will be subjected to. The Conservation Commission considered all the same information before you that all of us have sent in, including Mr. Shanahan's reports. They wrote a very specific, detailed report that denied the project based on good, sound judgment and facts from knowledgeable people who know Wareham. State officials who overturned their decision have their own agenda. They don't know Wareham, and neither does Mr. Shanahan or the company he represents. So when you consider the vote on this project, weighing all the amount of information sent in by Wareham citizens, committees, organizations, ask yourself, who should these bylaws ultimately protect? The answer should be obvious: to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the environment and the citizens of Wareham. Search your heart and vote what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, at this point, I'm looking for a motion to close the public hearing on, where's my
I have
agenda?
one hand up that I never heard from. Carl.
Oh, I didn't see that gentleman. Okay, I am not taking new testimony on this application. What would come forward, tell me what you'd like to say, and I'll decide whether we're going to listen to you on this application, not that you won't be able to submit it.
Sure. My name is Matt Provost. I represent the Provost family at 795 Main Street. So I had just a question for this committee about process.
Okay?
So I work in conservation. I'm familiar with solar,
Yes.
the issues
Yes.
on both sides.
Yes.
And I'm a big proponent of renewables. It's an important part of climate change and et cetera. So I'm not debating that at all. But what I think is super important for all of us here, including the gentleman representing the solar company, is the idea of solar done right. Solar put in the right places with the right BMPs for the right reasons. And all I'm hearing today is this is a bad placement of this solar farm. The impacts on the Weebiantic, what it will do to, it's going to negate the NOAA grant that pulled down the dam. There's a lot of talk about...
You said something that's not in evidence, so...
I understand. But the idea of solar done right. So there are methodologies, processes, technologies for the town to basically say, okay, well, solar may not be a good idea here, it's better over here and here and here. So what is the process to determine, well, is there a better alternative that will allow this company to put in solar for renewables, bring in revenue for the town, but to preserve this beautiful forest and the impacts of the wetland? There's a better choice here. So what does that process look like?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
There are some limited bylaws that discuss alternative site selection. The applicant is requested, I'm describing the process as I'm thinking about it, so I'm doing this off the cuff.
Okay.
Is requested as part of that to submit their position on those thoughts. Other than that, there's not, the other thing the board is not allowed to consider under our current bylaws is cumulative impact, because we do not have a cumulative impact zoning bylaw. So there's not much else other than looking at the impact on that property itself. Now, what citizens are allowed to do are to raise similar concerns and evidence during the public hearing, which will then be considered and then be given at the end, a new process, findings of fact based on that evidence. But site selection, the planning board is very much concerned with proper siting, proper conditioning. Proper siting and proper conditioning is governed by the zoning bylaws. This project, we're talking about this project, is allowed in the zone that it's allowed in, or it's being proposed in. It's zoned for this use. So from that sense, it's an allowed use on this site. That's the extent of the review. Then the other things we consider are properly conditioning it. Now, I haven't seen you at the other hearings. We spent 2 years trying to impose, develop, collaboratively work on conditions to mitigate concerns. The question is, has the applicant succeeded? We haven't drawn, and we're not going to discuss that tonight, but that's how we make those decisions.
A question, just so I understand it. So it's...
And I did that off the cuff, so
I
give
understand.
me a little...
The zoning is, you're saying that this project is allowed based on the zoning.
Yes.
But the zoning is in conflict with the environmental laws, wetland and critical area and those things.
It's not in conflict.
It's not.
Or that, excuse me, that's a finding of fact. That would be a conclusion. At this point, we have not determined that.
I
And
guess,
that would be a finding when we make our vote. Is it in conflict or not?
okay.
But I am saying at this point, it's an allowed use on this property. And the applicant has worked with us to try and mitigate any environmental concerns.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I encourage you, please come to future meetings. There's another solar project on tonight that is still open. You can raise those questions on that project. So thank you for your thoughts. But I assure you, the planning board considers site, proper siting, proper conditioning, and the law.
Yeah.
And, okay, thank you for your time.
Just a comment.
Go ahead.
We are, as has come up in many hearings around solar, we have a challenge around Chapter 48, Section, I should know by heart, Section 3, which is quite broad around siting of solar projects, and I agree that it is allowed as of right.
Not as of right. No,
Yeah.
Special permit.
Yeah,
site
special
plan.
permit, sorry. Although there is the exception when necessary to protect public health, safety, or welfare, and that's really where it comes to us, to look at this, to look at new developments as they come. And we are all trying to keep up with the new developments, battery storage, some of the issues there, solar siting, what's the impact, wastewater treatment, stormwater management. It is an ongoing challenge. I will, as someone new to the planning board, and we do have to rely, however, on evidence. And that's something that we're all working hard to illuminate and bring to the public and share with the board to be able to incorporate it into our decisioning process, not necessarily deny or approve, but in our decisioning process.
And every applicant that's come before us, we work aggressively to try and create a solution within the framework that we're allowed to work with. And every applicant so far has been very cooperative. Not that we've denied several, but that doesn't... Okay. I want to move this close, but if, we're not taking new testimony at this point. So I've opened the door, and that's, and because public involvement is important. Nancy, and then I see Annie. No, I'm going to bring this up. You've made a request. You're legally allowed to make the request. I have an open public hearing. I didn't close it yet.
Thank you. Nancy McHale, Faring Hill Road. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the previous speaker, I would just like to say that efforts have been made sort of through an assortment of channels to actually purchase this property instead of having it be solar. So I would ask the applicant to perhaps, rather than simply put this proposal back in as exactly the same thing, to think about doing a real revamp alternative analysis and put it in somewhere in town that's much more appropriate. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
your comment. And Annie is the last one. We need to bring this to a close. As a courtesy, I understand, Mr. Shanahan. No testimony, Annie.
Not testimony. I'm referencing your comment about health, safety, and welfare. And the reason that the Waltham project was denied by the Supreme Judicial Court was because, and this is what the AG said very specifically, it did not refer to health, safety, and welfare.
Right.
If it had, it would have been a different consideration. So that is key. And the first question that Mr. Price, the hired
This is not relevant to this case, so...
I'm not understanding. He asked if there were any wells, and he
Who
asked
said anything about wells?
health, safety, and welfare, Mr. Schultz.
I'm lost.
I'm talking about this realm of consideration that you're saying doesn't exist. This is not testimony. This is the realm of consideration of health, safety, and welfare.
Okay, but we're not considering health, safety, and welfare of the application that's being withdrawn.
And that there's no possibility or any rationale that would prevent the application from being withdrawn and starting a new public hearing.
The process would be, we have to make a motion to accept it. 3 members of the planning board have to vote to accept it. If
Well-
it's not accepted, then I'm not sure what happens.
Well, I'm speaking in a public hearing to that possibility that the motion is not accepted. And I'm referencing health, safety, and welfare. I'm also referencing that the state has multiple times suggested that we use the locator tool that they have for the best location for solar. I've seen the one that they did for Athol, which was excellent. I had one other point. But, environmental justice, that when you have a well, you are so much more vulnerable to the consequence of destroying the forest, which is the,
You are testifying now.
all right.
Thank you.
But you get environmental justice big on the state's radar these days.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand your concern. I'm looking for a motion to close the public.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
I can't vote. I don't think
Yes,
I
you can. Yeah, you can.
You can.
I'll abstain for the moment.
Okay, I'm looking for a second to close the public hearing. Okay, the chair can vote as a second, not hearing it from the board. I'm going to vote as a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Jane, are you there?
Yes. If you can hear me.
Yes. Mr. Baptiste?
Sam Corbett, yes.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we've closed the public hearing on this matter. We're now considering, and I thank, and I took the time, I want the citizens to understand, we want, and Annie, even though I cut you off, we want to hear your input. It just, huh? We have to get it in the right time and place. I think we can carry that forward if the application is withdrawn. Thank you for your time, the citizens. Now, I'm looking for a motion to consider the request to withdraw. Under the law, he has the right to do this.
So moved.
Can I just, and we're clear that we have, you're looking at, yeah, that's what you're looking at.
We've done this
Six-
before.
Yeah, 48, section 16. Okay,
So I have a motion, did you second?
yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting the withdrawal? Wait, for discussion, I want, if you're successful, Mr. Shanahan, at withdrawing your application and resubmitting,
Without prejudice.
huh?
Without prejudice.
Without prejudice. First thing I would like you to consider is the new standard, which we haven't talked about because you've been gone for quite a while, for battery decommissioning for the NREL. So in your resubmission, should you decide to do that, and should you, the new, it's just a new table of schedule of
I
values.
understand, I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
Thank you. We shall.
If you're successful, I would suggest that. Under this schedule, I would suggest that we'll follow if, again, presuming how the vote goes, we'll follow the new 6-week schedule. Depending on the date you get the thing submitted, we'll enter it in Viewpoint, and then we'll schedule according to that schedule.
I understand. Thank you.
And then the town should, or citizens should understand that we'll follow, if this goes forward, we're going to follow that schedule for this new application.
As we discussed earlier.
I'm sorry?
As we discussed earlier.
Yes, as we discussed earlier. So depending on when you get your stuff together and get the new application submitted. The other thing I would request, and this is based on previous citizens' comment, as you've noted, we've been doing this for a long time, and there's been lots of iterations of the plan. With your new submission, although we'll bring forward all the historical reference, please clearly and succinctly identify only those parts of the application that are now relevant. The current plan, the current stormwater plan, the current mitigation strategy, so we've got all that historical stuff, but let's be clear on what because citizens have asked, what is the current plan before us? So in your resubmission, should we decide to go that way,
We shall.
be very clear, this is the plan set we're reviewing now. Everything else, not testimony, but everything else regarding the plan is historical artifact.
I hate to leave that 7 years behind us, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it'll all be dragged forward, but it'll all be dragged forward.
I'll be
but-
dragged forward.
But we'll be able to be clear on the plan set we're focused on. So I have a motion and a second to accept the withdrawal. I'm looking for a vote. Jane?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike Baptiste, no.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie?
Julie Moran, no.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. This was a simple majority. We have 3,
311.
3, 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2.
3 yes, 2 nay to withdraw.
I thought you, okay.
She didn't abstain. So,
Just one quick question, Mr. Chairman, based on your vote, because we went through this previously, because it's not the applicant's fault that there is a need to go down this road. previously, we were not required to pay the application fee again. I'm asking for the board's recognition that we would waive the application fee. We'll pay the publication fee and the mailing fees, but
I think it's fair.
Any thoughts, Ken? And then we'll discuss. The application fee is minimal, right? It's de minimis. A couple
It's
$100 bucks?
$750.
How much?
$750. And we have in the past precedent set, we have allowed that they could waive the application fee, but they had to pay the publication and mailings.
And establishing, probably have to establish a new 53G account, which we can then work financially to roll the funds over, but
cannot even imagine what you're going to do with that money, Mr. Chairman.
at least we have it.
I agree.
Well,
You want a motion?
I have ideas of what I might do with it, but I'm looking, what am I looking for a motion?
I make a motion, we waive the application fees for this
That's
project.
correct. That's where we're at. Thank you. I got lost in the weeds there. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive the application fee. Jane?
Jane Gleason, no.
Okay. Mr. Baptiste?
No.
Mr. Corbett?
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
And the chair votes aye. $750 is not going to make or
For
break.
what he's put into it, it's fair. You don't want to be punitive here. I mean, it's, for everything they've put in, whether you agree or not, it's fair. It's what to do.
Thank you all.
Thank you for showing up. Thanks to the citizens. Thank you for your comments. Please know they were all considered. All right. Ms. Morton. Continued public hearing, 1233, 370 County Road, LLC, site plan review and special permit.
My engineer, Attorney Jillian Morton, 184 Main Street, MOR201.
Thank you, and I'm not going to have you swear in, but I will have your engineer swear in. Sir, can you stand and raise your right hand, state your name?
My name is Richard Graham.
Okay, great. Do you swear that the evidence that you are about to submit is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, with respect to the matter before the board?
Yes.
Thank you. We don't ask attorneys to swear in, because it doesn't matter to you guys anyway.
All right.
You know how to circumvent the law anyway, so
I'm sorry?
you know how to skate around all that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you. Welcome back.
Yes,
So if you could
absolutely.
summarize where we're at, and I have an idea of
Of
where we're
course.
at.
So where we're at is last meeting, we had a final peer review and essentially no outstanding tasks from Mr. Cordero, our peer engineer. That was our third review. We spoke in depth about some of the plantings and pollination mix. So we're pretty much at a point where we were looking for a vote, and then we realized we need conservation approval. So we have received that. That was the order of conditions. It was recorded. We do have a copy with a book and page. I know it's late hour, so I didn't want to give that to you, but it's 8/7 that was recorded. And so the Conservation Commission has approved that. And so hearing the finding of facts kind of threw me a little bit, but that is
I agree.
excellent
That's in-
idea.
Yeah.
So I guess I would just like to comment on the fact that I certainly think that a finding of facts, after every, fact that you're stating, it's going to reference an appendice or the documents or a peer review. So that is something that we're more than happy to prepare.
Yes, you're in.
You don't have it right now.
No,
Yeah.
and I'll talk about the process if we close the public.
Sure.
You would be expected to provide your input to that, as would each board member should be thinking about that as well as any citizen.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And that will be considered. I won't request that till after we close the public hearing, and because there's no new testimony, we can accept it after the public hearing. And that is a reason why you cannot provide testimony, because we won't request the findings of fact until after we close the public hearing. So new testimony cannot be accepted as part of the findings of fact. It's new for us. We're working on it,
I
but
think it's a great idea. And I just wanted to make one more comment about MGL 40, Chapter 3, when we're talking about the public health, welfare, safety. If you recall, this is the project that and Rich can speak to this in regards to how we're going to be dealing with the storm water is going to be, is it refiltrate? You say the word.
Infiltration.
The system is going to be self-sustaining itself. We really tried to work, putting the pollinator mix in there. This is a site that is a Wareham resident, so I know they're speaking about non-Wareham residents and what Wareham residents do. And this is a great way to supplement income and be able to keep our property. This is quite a bit of property as far as taxes go. So we really feel like each project is on its merits, that there's a balancing act that needs to be had with the board in regards to property rights of the owners versus, what the law is and the environment. So we'd like just that considered. So, and I'm happy, I know their abutters probably want to speak, and if I have anything else afterwards, I just ask, I'll hold everything for the end for any sort of
I
rebuttal.
have one or two questions.
Of course.
So from the board, we need to determine, is there any other information, or do you have any other questions for the applicant? Because the matter before us would be to move to close the public hearing tonight, and then move into findings of fact, which that would be where I think we're at, unless you think there's more information we need. So I'm looking, I do.
Oh, good.
Mike, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Was a consideration ever thought about putting it on the old bogs versus putting it on the upland?
On what?
Putting the panels on the old bogs. They've done it in Carver, other towns.
Well, we can't in the Wareham.
Yeah, and if I may, I know that
Just
Yep.
to the conservation agent, Josh, I understand the wetlands bylaw says we can't put solar over the bogs today. Is that correct?
The bogs are considered a resource area under the Wetlands Protection Act.
The bogs are non-functioning, though.
That would
I think that's a
be,
gray area, because I know that the project was denied on Carver Road. It was going on the bog, and we approved it. And the thing is conservation denied it. Well, it was a...
well, that would, if they're going to move that's a whole modification to the
I was just
plan.
asking, the consideration, because I think that would have been the ideal way to go.
Okay, that would be a
versus
new
destroying the upland.
application.
We were able to do it successfully in Carver.
Yeah.
Where it was a working bog. The person was running it, growing his vines. He came here and testified the last time. It went all the way up to the DEP Commissioner's office, and they said, yes, you could do it as long as you kept operating the bogs. This is an idle bog, so there is no way that, from a regulatory standpoint, it could be approved on the bog. It can't be done. The DEP would strike it
This
down.
whole solar business, it gets real personal, because what's happening in this country is we're dictated what goes on in our lives by the government.
Yeah.
We live in this town, we have no rights. The lawyers come in here, they beat us up, and it's becoming a word game back and forth. No offense to you, you're doing your job.
Live in this town,
And the thing is, people got to stand together and fight this shit. The state's telling us what we got to do down here. They don't live here. They got their houses in Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, out in the Hunt and everything else. They couldn't care less about us people. As long as we pay our taxes, we're just ants, that's all. And like I said, it's a damn shame that what's happening. And the thing is, people got to stand up and fight for their rights. The last gentleman that went out of here, that's a shame to even develop that land. We said that in the beginning. And the thing is, we have laws we have to go by. It's time to challenge the laws. That's what we have to do. Hit them in the ballot box. They don't give a shit. They don't live here. This situation here, every case has got its own merit. This case here, this lady is trying to keep her property. I understand that. And I think we should work with her. She's a Wareham resident. She's lived here all her life. Her family's been here all her life. But there's other guys, they just come in and raping this place, that's all.
Mike, you got to be
I'm
careful.
sorry, I'm soapboxing, but I'm really pissed off.
actually leads into, we'd love, because Ms. Zimmer, she came here to let her speak. I know she was on Zoom, if the board would.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay,
Let the board finish. Any other? Jane, do you have any questions?
I do not at this time.
Okay, great. I do. We had some exchange that I want to get on the record, and a material. The impact of the Plymouth Study Group and the order, that the state order about the interconnect and the schedule impact. Have you gotten any more information? It looks to me like you're not going to be able to connect for 4 years.
Is Mr. Chrysler on right now? Yep, so I know that the sponsor of the project was on a call with Eversource, so we provided to you a memorandum.
Yes, and I wanted to get that onto the record. so,
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Chrysler, is Eric Chrysler? Okay, perfect. Let him speak to that.
And I want him to swear in if he's going to give.
Left. Okay. I'm happy to, I mean, he wrote a memorandum, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there is a relevant paragraph speaking to the timing of it, if you would like me to do that.
Can you read for the record the date and the summary, and then we'll enter
Sure.
that into the record?
Yep. So I can't recall the actual date we sent it. I have to look at my email, but he just met with him, I want to say, 3 weeks ago. It was a Eversource meeting, and so other solar projects were coming in to listen on that. Eversource was clear, this is quote unquote from him, Eversource was clear that there is no way for them to tell when projects will be allowed to interconnect. I think generally the interconnection will happen between years 2.5 and 4 of the process, guarding for some anomalies on either side. So that is kind of the report that we got. He said because solar companies in the Plymouth study will be making enormous payments to Eversource in the next 4 months, the Fairhaven process for engineering and grid upgrades is going well. So there is progress being made, and obviously the sponsor's very involved in it. So as much as we got this information, we want to give it to you in the planning board, but it could take 2.5 or 4.
And my concern is that the permit isn't good for that long. So that will be a finding of fact, and I'm not, but that's a concern, because we've recently denied an extension for 2 projects on that basis.
Yeah.
So I'm not testifying.
Eric's
Oh, is
here,
Mr. Chrysler?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, we'll recognize Mr. Chrysler. I'd like him to swear in, please.
Yeah, I'm here. It's Eric Chrysler, Intero Energy.
Okay, can you raise your right hand and stand virtually? And do you swear
Yep.
that the evidence you are about to submit is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I was trying to connect and I hit the wrong button. So what I think is being asked is what's the expected connection time for the projects? And we had prepared a letter to the board, or at least I had, about this, but I would,
Ms. Martin just referenced, is that correct?
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's entered
Yeah.
into the record, and we'll get it posted.
Okay, and from what I understand from the call that Jillian referenced with Eversource, it's somewhere between 2.5 to 4 years will be the timing of the projects being actually getting interconnected. And 2.5 is optimistic, 4 is kind of, those are the later ones, and everyone else is going to be somewhere in between. So there's a lot of engineering that has to get done, and then there's a lot of work that has to get done by Eversource. It does seem from that call that there was a group of projects that came before this group. This is known as the Plymouth study, and there was a Fairhaven study before this, and that they have been working for a year and a half on their, they were where we are about a year and a half ago. And in the letter, I think I may have stated 9 months or something, but actually, I correct myself, it's more like a year and a couple months that they've been working on it, and they're ahead of schedule. So that's leading everybody who's involved with this to be hopeful and about the Eversource process and it going more quickly. And so there is a chance that they'll let projects in more quickly. But 2.5 years seems to be where that is. It could be 2. It's just whether they decide whether particular projects can actually connect at the same time that they're doing their work, which is sort of not really been determined yet. So that's what it looks like.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to say, or I'll let the public speak? Would you like to say?
No, just having the landowner when we're able to.
Well, we'll let her go first when I open it to the public. Any other questions from the board? Any other material you want to request from the applicant? Julie, you had something to say?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to let the public speak.
Nope, I'm all set.
Jane, you okay? The boat stopped rocking. Okay. Ms. Zimmer, it's Ms. Zimmer, right? Yes. Would you like to come forward? Can you do it, or we could bring the microphone to you? There's a microphone right there you could use. Just swing it around for her. There should be plenty of cord. And make sure the green light is on.
It's on, okay.
State your name and, you don't have, sit, be comfortable.
Yes, my name's Patricia Harju Zimmer, and I just would like to ask for the board's support of this project. It's needless to say, it's very important to me and to my family, and I really would like to be able to keep this property going as it is, and to improve it and to reach out to other crops. There are other things that can be produced there, and I would just like to see it. This is something that would help support that. And I appreciate your consideration. If there's anything that you feel that I can tell you, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think you've testified a couple of times. We've asked you some questions. I'm clear on what your plans are and why you're doing it. I am, personally. Anything else? Anyone on the board want to ask Ms. Zimmer anything? Okay. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak on this matter? Ms. Hayes.
Thank you. Annie Hayes, I'm hearing about the 2.5 to 4 year term, and that it could be sooner than that. And I'm wondering about, as the state expedites siting, it seems that that's going to bring more projects online, not online, up to being permitted and in the queue faster. It's just seems like a logical, perhaps practical statement. And so there's that. I thought that the upland would be cleared of forest and that's where the solar would be placed. Am I wrong in that? That's for Mrs. Zimmer, I guess.
Oh, no, well, actually, do you want to speak to, just talk about the two areas that you're going to...
All upland. The solar panels are 100% on uplands, away from the wetlands.
But she's interested in the trees, so how many acres of trees are you going to take down in those two areas?
I think we said it was 12 acres of trees that are going to be removed, and we're going to plant pollinated plants instead of the trees, which is much better habitat, not only for the bees and the other pollinators, but for the other little critters, because it's not a very good habitat the way it is right now.
Referencing that, there is a bee lab at UMass Dartmouth. I don't know if people know that. A bee lab. And the person who has a doctorate in bee studies and pollinators, has corresponded with me. And for the Faring Hill project, he said that there were problems with the first proposal, and even...
That hasn't been entered into testimony, so...
Even with the second. No, but I'm suggesting that perhaps
Okay.
he would like that information.
Great, no, that's good. That's
Okay.
perfect. And actually, for the,
Helpful?
if Faring Hill gets resubmitted, please introduce
I intend to.
that. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you could,
Yeah.
that would be helpful. Thank you, Ms. Hayes. I'm trying to keep the projects from cross-contaminating or getting confused. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Okay. I'm going to look for a motion to close the public hearing. Before acting on that, I'd like to describe what I think the process will be. Okay. When we close the public hearing, I will then ask, and I'll reread the statement for findings of fact to be submitted to the board and under the matter and conditions that we described. I think if we close the public hearing tonight, 4 weeks should be sufficient time to submit the findings of fact. We would then schedule a meeting 4 weeks out, which would be the 9th, I think. This is procedurally how I think we would proceed or move forward, to review and vote on the findings of fact. So that says for the next, if we move forward, next 4 weeks, the applicant needs to assemble their view of the findings of fact. Any citizen who wants to submit findings of fact, and I'll reread the statement, would have to have them in the form requested. I encourage citizens groups who are like-minded to get together, and so we have fewer documents to sift through. The planning board needs to think about any findings of facts they're going to want to enter into the record. So then, Josh, I think this might be a long meeting. I don't know. We'll have to think about it. So tentatively, 4 weeks from now, we would convene the finding of facts session. We would then vote on each finding of fact, get it entered up or down into our, and then we would deliberate and make a decision based on those facts. So that would be the schedule that I envision. Does that make sense to you, Ms. Morton?
Yep.
So the applicant, I would request that the applicant, in terms of all timing, grant continuances to make sure we get the time to get
I was
all
going to
of
say
it.
with the decision. Yep.
Yeah, to get all of this, so we don't end up with a constructive approval.
I think if you're creating a findings of fact document, you could probably vote on it all at once, and then if there were comments about a specific finding, you could address them in
I
discussion.
specifically raised that question with counsel, and he said not to do it that way, but if you want to go back, and
I'll ask him. I think you're right. I think it's going to make for a very long meeting of...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, so we need to find, that's one of the reasons I was hoping the citizens could collaborate so that we don't have to weed through
Every single one.
duplicate or slightly off-worded or, so, and this is going to be the first time we did it, so I'm asking everyone to work with us. Hopefully, it leads us to a better decision.
I'm curious, you're saying you would have another meeting, open meeting on that? I thought it would be more of an administrative.
No, I want to do it in public. It won't be a public hearing, but it will be, even if we had an administrative meeting, the public would be eligible to, I don't want this to be hidden or behind closed doors. And everyone should, these are such important decisions that I think we should understand, and particularly it's impacting Ms. Zimmer's life and the quality of life of everyone else. So we need to be as open as we can. So it would not be a public hearing. We would not be taking testimony or discussion, but we would be reviewing each of the findings of fact in public. That's my recommendation, unless the board overrides me, which is different than how we've done it in the past. So that's roughly what I see the schedule being. Okay, so I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Jane?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike?
Mike Baptiste, aye.
Sam?
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, now, don't go anywhere. All I did was close the public hearing. To everyone who's interested and who may be on the ether, the planning board is providing you with the opportunity to suggest findings and fact, hereinafter findings, in connection with the forthcoming decision in the matter 1222 370 County Road LLC, site plan and review and special permit for a solar installation. Findings must be submitted to planning board at, Josh, that gets to all of us. What's just so that it goes to you? I have planning board at where? What is it, planning office? Planning office didn't work.
Oh, that's a good question.
For now, planning board at Wareham, Massachusetts, wareham.ma.us, and I'm going to get this posted on the website electronically, no later than 4 weeks from tonight. So that would be no later than 4 weeks from tonight would be what? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
September 9th.
September 9th. So I don't think we'll be ready to take it up on the 9th. We would then schedule it for the 23rd. So no later than September 9th for consideration at a meeting on September 23rd, the regularly scheduled planning board meeting. So we'll put that on the calendar for the 23rd. The subject line of the email and your submission should be proposed findings of fact / and then 1223 370 County Road LLC. That should be the subject line, so we know what it's related to. The submission should be, or accompanied by, an electronically editable version in Microsoft Word. The proposed findings shall take the form of individual numbered paragraphs. Each numbered paragraph should set out a distinct factual proposition and cite to the portion of the case record which supports such proposition and its conclusions in law. Please note, therefore, that a proposed finding is not an occasion to provide new evidence. Attempting to provide new evidence in this submission will disqualify it completely. We can't take new evidence after the public hearing's closed. But should be drafted to identify and summarize existing, previously submitted evidence that you believe is relevant to the particular desired case outcome. The planning board reserves the right to use any, all, or none of the proposed findings. Please note that this invitation is not intended to confer upon you or anyone any legal standing in the case beyond that which might currently exist, and is offered to you only as a courtesy and as an occasion for you to advise the planning board in its important work. All right. Now, because this is the first time we do it, I will take questions. This should be familiar to you. You do this all the time.
Yeah, I guess the question is, there's no matter of law findings then happening in that.
Well,
It's all gonna be fine.
the law that you need to refer your findings to.
Referencing it, there's no legal conclusions.
Yeah, but it either needs to point to a zoning bylaw,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mass General Law, or some other law of the universe. I don't know. It has to be it has to support some matter of law. And I'll defer to you.
And you don't want those as exhibit extracted from the documents, or would you prefer that?
Help me again?
If we're referencing a specific document, or do you want those pulled out?
If you can, anything that helps us weigh in on that fact.
Yeah. Are you talking about exhibits or links?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
I'm
I
adding
think,
as
the question.
exhibits for you
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
packet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or links.
Just thinking
Yeah.
that would be,
Exhibits probably easier. Okay.
Any questions in the audience? This is the first time we're asking you to do this, so we're all,
another question.
Oh.
Minutes, the minutes would also be included, correct? That we could reference?
the minutes are part of the record, yes.
Yep.
As is the recording.
Recording?
Don't make it too hard for us. I had an applicant before who said, well, it's in there. And I said, if you're making me go look for it, don't count on me being able to find it. If you want me to find it, you need to help me get right to it. You have to make,
For questions.
yeah.
For now.
Yeah. Again, to the public, any questions? I know it's new. We'll do our best to get there together. We have a hand raised. Mr. Chrysler,
Yep.
do you have a question?
I think he just never.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand. Is it that we are trying to essentially break apart portions of the documentation that we've submitted so far and apply it to the bylaw or other things that we think need to be addressed, or
Yes, when,
Through the chair, I'm happy to discuss with my client.
yeah, and I would hope that your team only submits one
Yes.
body of evidence. I refer you to, if you're interested, some well-written documents that even though the Tracer Lane got overturned, the findings of fact were clearly articulated. Not Framingham, what was Sherry, remind me, what was the other, Petersham.
Peterson.
The Petersham decision, as examples of findings of fact, not conclusions, but the section on findings of fact.
Yep.
Those are two documents that I think, and I'm not talking about the conclusions or the vote, I'm just talking about as examples of findings of fact. But again, I'll get to you. You have a question, I'll get to you. So let me just finish my thought. Yes, so,
Can I add something real quick? That really what we're looking for is an executive summary so that we can summarize what all has been talked about from the different sides of the table.
but it needs to be factual and evidentiary. We need to be,
True. Yeah.
Right.
yes.
We're familiar with it.
It's not opinion. I mean, you could submit whatever you want. This gentleman had a question, Annie, and then I'll go to you.
What was the first case you mentioned before
Uh,
Petersham?
Tracer Lane. Tracer Lane, it was Waltham, right?
Yep.
Yes. And Petersham, those were very public, contentious, adjudicated cases. And I'm only suggesting you look at them And Ms. Hayes introduced us to the Petersham case. If you remember, you're the one who brought that to us, but as a way of writing findings of fact. Ms. Hayes. Yeah, just so you could get heard.
Annie Hayes, for findings of fact, do you want a reference? You want the source?
It has to be something that's already on the record. Can't be a new source.
No, I understand that.
Yes.
But you want the source from what has already been put on the record?
Yes.
Yeah, more for clarity.
Okay,
Annie?
so
Yeah.
that can be a lot of work, right? The other is there a cutoff date for providing this post-body of works factual summation?
Yes, 4 weeks, the 9th,
4 weeks from,
today. September 9th is the cutoff
for this project?
for this project, yes.
Okay, for any project?
That, in general, we're going to try 4 weeks, and then 2 weeks to assemble and then review.
Okay, so for public hearing, all right, let's say Mr. Shanahan.
We're not talking about Mr.
I know,
Shanahan.
okay, so Project X is reopened, okay, or opened, okay? So public hearings can be extended, it could last whatever, is that right?
Correct.
Whatever. And when that's going on, a person is submitting before Wednesday at noon information. And how is that information framed for you?
The best you can, the submitter has to do the best job they can to submit evidence. That goes into the record. When the public hearing is closed, the process for allowing new evidence ends.
Yes.
So that's what we've done here. We've stopped receiving new evidence. Now you, the applicant, you, the citizen, has the opportunity to go back over the record and say, you know, I've been to all these meetings, and this was a really salient point for the decision in whatever way you want it to go. You're not voting, you're not recommending a vote, but it supports your position one way or the other.
But I thought you were saying you have to reference everything else that you've submitted.
You have to submit a paragraph for each point that you make, and it needs to reference an item from the record.
And the record is from anybody's submission?
Anything that's on the record.
Okay, but what about what you have submitted?
What do you mean, what I have submitted?
So I submit, documents.
Oh, you, certainly,
Submission.
as long as it was submitted to us,
On the record.
you can reference that.
Okay, I'm still confused. It's a summation of all the referencing.
It's not a
including-
summation. You cannot submit
Okay, it's not a
a
summation.
single thing that says, I submitted all this stuff. You need to make your favorite subject. Polyfluoride,
Polymer.
PFAS.
Polymer
Okay, let's
PFAS.
just take that as, I'm not coaching you, but you've submitted documentation, I don't know if in this case, but I think in this case, you believe that the consideration of PFAS in solar panels is a serious consideration that needs, you would need to summarize and say, the solar panels that this project is submitting, as evidenced by the brand from the application, which you've often said in other projects, contain PFAS. I can't, yeah, PFAS.
Yeah.
These panels contain, you make a proposition, statement of fact. These panels contain PFAS. I don't know that they do, I'm just trying to make an example. Then, as evidenced, you say they contain PFAS, as evidenced in here. Your next proposition, evidence that's been submitted that solar panels leach PFAS into the ground. Next proposition, source of that to substantiate that statement. That's entered into evidence. Next proposition. Groundwater flows of PFAS into the aquifer. That's how you would build your case.
Wow.
That's what we have to, we haven't done this really well up until now, but that's what we need to do when we either vote yes or no to support a case. Read the Tracer or read the Petersham
But we're
decision.
not attorneys. That was done by attorneys.
That's still what we have to submit.
So my contention is that we all want the best science. And the best science is evolving constantly. So when it's closed, we are going to have every reference to the best science from the record,
Only, yeah,
past record. It's going to be this. So that can be a ton of work in reviewing all of the testimony or the past work.
I suggest,
Wow.
if you, well, go ahead.
Just to clarify, Ms. Hayes, I think you're asking, do you have to, your statements of fact, findings of fact, have to be about everything that was heard, but it's really about what? Let's say you get together with 3 different of our citizens who came forward, not necessarily what our findings of fact may be.
Well, which will incorporate those.
That's on the record.
But, yes, but I just want to make it clear that Ms. Hayes is not charged with,
She can do as much or as little as she can. And what I would encourage you to do is focus.
I do focus.
No, I meant-
religiously.
No, I'm sorry, don't take that the wrong way.
I do.
Pick the 10 items, or 20, or however many, that you think are most compelling to support your view. Don't testify, don't vote, findings of fact.
Okay, multiple views. So I have view that this is more salient, and the data from the report.
It's a
from the
paragraph. We're not looking for,
right, but it's all the data then.
okay, give it a shot. I can't write this for you.
It's going to be a lot of work, and I don't want to give it a shot in the wrong direction. So I think
I think
maybe you could give an example. Send us. No, I mean a written example.
All I'm going to do is tell you, look, it's Tracer Lane, Petersham, those are written examples.
Written by attorneys, yeah. Okay.
Annie, we didn't have to give you this chance. Do your best, is all I'm concerned. We want to give you a chance.
Can we put together something that would help the public go through this process? I mean, I just got a couple of texts. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Can we?
I don't know how to do it any more than what I read. And the examples that we provided.
I think we could
This is what I was
do
afraid
a
of,
bit
Sharon.
more around
I
that.
don't understand how to do this.
Yeah.
I'll just speak as like a Wareham citizen myself, that if we just say yes or no to a project without any findings of fact, it's arbitrary and capricious, boom, lawsuit either way. So this is protecting the town, regardless which way you
Exactly.
guys go.
That's what we're trying to do.
So I know it's hard and I know it's a lot of work, but it's the best way to protect town of Wareham, in
Agreed.
my opinion.
So other than, and we got to be careful about writing guidance.
Agreed. And not
that's why
necessarily
I
about a case,
pointed to
but
what's in the public record, Petersham, Tracer Lane. Some of it we're going to is standard material, property address, which we'll get mostly from you, and size of the project, those all get entered in findings of fact.
So from those, then you make your decision, the vote would be then, so we need
Well,
a
the first thing we
continuance.
would do is decide whether we're going to incorporate a fact into the final process. We would vote yes or no. Josh is going to check if we could do it in groups or tranches or some way to facilitate the process. Right now, I'm thinking we have to look at each one on its own. And we may not even enter some if they look like they're testifying or if we can't find. And it's going to be a lot of work on our side to go through this stuff.
I also think that the first one's going to be a challenge.
Yep.
But this is, for our citizens, this is something we understand we're just introduced. So going forward, I think it's going to become easier as we all understand, okay, these are salient facts that I want to make sure that I get into the record. So going forward, I think for our citizens who want to come forward and speak, I think it will become less difficult.
They're
Not going to speak.
No, I know, but just coming forward, submitting, they will, I think it will become
I
easier.
agree with you 100%, but we're talking about a specific project, and
Yeah.
people aren't sure what they have to do. I know what you said. People are still confused. I don't want to put this project in jeopardy, but I also don't want the citizens thinking they don't know what to do to have the input on this project.
I don't know how to.
I know that.
How to address, this is,
Any ideas?
we cannot coach them.
No, I understand.
I know that, we can't coach them, but
You don't want to overwhelm them either.
Well,
They
is it?
don't have to submit.
but they want to.
Haven't in the
Yeah.
past.
But they want to.
I don't know, okay.
I understand,
I don't
Carl.
know what you want
This
me
is
to
a
say.
learning process we're going through.
That's right.
This is the first one. We need to make sure we can't coach them,
Yep,
but we have to help them.
as an idea.
So I think our team is going to talk about existing conditions, about what is proposed. We'll have a lot of the basics, those are the findings. And I don't think the abutters are going to be writing about existing conditions or proposed conditions. They're going to write about habitat, or they're going to write about PFAS, or they're going to write about specific things that bother them. I think that our group will put together the basic blocks that nobody has any controversy about. This is what's proposed. This is how many panels, this is how many square footage.
That's
of
clearly,
clearing.
that's the basic material, but you need to provide information where you
Oh, yeah, per the
believe.
standards, but I think what he's trying to say is that the public
Doesn't have to
shouldn't
enter
feel
that.
like they have to go through everything, that what you're considering from their findings of fact would
Right.
be,
Yeah, you
why
don't-
should this be
You don't have to
denied?
go
That's right,
and
yeah.
do the size of the project
Right.
or the
No.
location of the I try to, that we're gonna get, I mean, you can, but we're gonna get that.
Yeah. Two people back here.
Hang on, I got, Annie, I'll come back to you, but Sherry and then Eric. Are you speaking as a citizen?
Good question. I think I'm speaking as a citizen, also as a lawyer who is probably more familiar with this process from my practice in other realms. But I think the important things to understand are that the planning board is not asking you to make a decision or lay out all the elements of a decision in this case. But many members of the public, other than the applicants, I think, you have properly, I think, recognized that the burden is sort of on you to lay out the framework of this case, the back, what the project is, what the background is, what's happened to date. And then the members of the public have come up and have made particular points on issues from time to time. And this is an opportunity for the members of the public to submit proposed findings to the planning board on those issues that you brought up. And you don't need to feel any obligation to submit any findings at all if you think that the planning board is going to be fine without your input. If you believe, though, that it would be helpful to lay out the elements, how you got to where you are on the views that you raised, the specific factual pieces of it, the evidence, that's really what this process is looking for, is how is it, for example, for some members of the public, why do you think PFAS is an issue here? And lay it out brick by brick. It's like building a house of bricks. You lay them out, you make the structure, and then you are trying to persuade the planning board that that is the correct way to look at that aspect of this case. So this is really intended, I think, as I understand it, to provide the public with a structured way to help the planning board to write its decision. And if you feel overwhelmed by what you might have to do on this, imagine what it's like to be on the planning board and to have this entire record and no help in really being able to understand what significance everybody sees in the statements that they've submitted and the evidence that they've submitted. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, thanks, Jerry. Yep.
I tried to say all that.
Yeah.
Do you, or
I'll be,
should
I'll be quick. And I think it's tough for this one because we're asking you to do this at the finish line.
Correct.
But I think moving forward, if you have a comment that you feel is important for the planning board to know, submit it in the framework of it being a finding of fact, and then we'll just carry it through to the end of the project. For example, let's say, there's evidence that a pollinator mix is more appropriate for bees, and you have it written scientific paper from a certain professor. Maybe you submit that as your finding of fact to move to the end of the project.
Right. Someone in the
Eric,
back.
you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, I wanted to be clear that to be able to assemble this, the information has to already be on the record. That's true, right? And then,
Correct.
and that, I was curious if there's a place where all the information is now and where it's available to the public.
Today, it's what's on the website.
Okay. So it should all be there, in other words, because it's been submitted.
It should
Right.
be.
Okay. Okay. That's all I had. Sherry answered the rest of my questions, so I'm good.
Eric. Another Eric.
Yeah, I think what Sherry said answer a lot of questions. I think it'd have to be careful just so that we don't discourage people from coming forward to talk or give written comment too. I think clarification is going to be important, and I'm not sure how everything you said tonight, and we still got a lot of questions going around, the general public, how are they going to get this kind of information and know how? I'm still not sure what's going on. I think it's important about the facts, and a lot of information is coming up so that it doesn't get so repetitive, but I'm not sure about the general citizens coming forward.
If a general, in all honesty, and an answer to you, if they haven't come to any of the planning board meetings, they're going to have a tough time. And I
understand that, but like a new project will come up for some that's important to somebody, and they've never been to any other meeting because there was nothing important. So they come for the first time. I don't want to see people all of a sudden, start to read or start to talk, and all of a sudden they're going to be shut down because it's something about this, you have to have this kind of information, it's got to be presented this way. I'm not sure.
Well, so far we haven't limited how evidence is formatted, but findings of fact have to be formatted.
No, absolutely.
Otherwise, we'll never be able to process
Yeah,
it.
I think it's important. I just think it's how to educate then the public so that when we do, it's done the right way. I guess that's what, so it's not so confusing. So that's tricky. I don't know how you can actually do it or how you'll do it, but I think it would be a good way to try to, this is a learning curve, obviously.
Right, and that's what I tried to say at the beginning. We're going on this journey together.
Sure.
And hopefully it leads us to a better place.
Yeah, it's learning. Okay, thanks.
I'll get to you in a minute. Annie, you had your hand up, you have another point?
So, my notes are kind of scrambled, but bear with me. So, how to assemble? From the information already on the record, one makes an assertion of relevance, according to that person, to the project, and the source of using facts for substantiation of that assertion, giving the source of the facts brick by brick, a logical construction supporting the argument for the relevance.
I think that's...
Something like that.
That's right.
Okay, all right.
And as we do these, that's why I pointed to those two cases, and they were done by lawyers, but they're constructed in that way.
I've read them both, and they're constructed with relevance according to what they have as a legal background as well. So that's a big difference
Well, but
from
you-
most people, as Eric said.
Yeah.
It's
and
intimidating.
I
Yeah. So,
we got to do the best we can.
And I think in the beginning, we're going to be a little forgiving.
Sam, your mic.
Oh, sorry. In the beginning, I think we should be a little bit forgiving. This is, as our chairman said, a learning process. And I know I got a couple of texts already saying, I'm confused, I don't know what to do. We're just going to have to try to go through it together slowly, and I know we can't tell them what to say, but we can give them examples and coach them a little bit along the way. We have to.
Yeah, agreed.
I understand.
That's why I encouraged you to get together with like-minded individuals. And Jennifer, did you have something you wanted to say? We have to be careful about coaching.
Yes,
I
agree.
understand.
No, agreed.
Josh brought up a good point, that this is being brought
Jennifer,
up.
just introduce
you
yourself.
have to
I'm sorry,
introduce
Jennifer
yourself.
Carter at 35 War Avenue. Josh brought up a good point by pointing out that in this particular project, this is being introduced at the finish line. So I wondered if it would be possible to have more than 4 weeks for this particular project in light of that alone, since they haven't been able to kind of gather their thoughts during the process leading up to this point.
Okay, wait, okay, 2 points.
Yeah.
The good news is this project isn't 7 years old. We have one project that is nearly that old. It's going to be very hard. How does the applicant feel about granting, given that, let me posit this, given that it's 2.5 years before you can interconnect, how do you feel about allowing more time for the findings of fact?
So that will push all the deadlines back, so then our meeting wouldn't be till mid-October. I just think.
Yes, it would. That's why I'm asking. Yeah. How does that impact your
Give
schedule?
another week, I think a month to review everything that's on. I don't know, I'd have to talk, I can't have authority right now for my client unless I
Okay.
talk to him
Well,
about it.
on September 9th, we'll see what we've got, and
Right.
we can re-examine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be like,
No, no,
I don't
I'm
have
giving you
authority
the
right now.
opportunity. I
Kind of a dry
understand.
run.
Yeah, we understand.
Yep,
And that this is all new to everyone,
right, yep.
including our citizens.
Thank you.
All right, so on September 9th, we'll see what we've got,
Yeah.
and then somehow we've got to, as a board, assess what we got and move forward on it.
Would you like to request a continuance then? And also a decision deadline right now? Or do you want that in writing?
Let's do it verbally and follow it up in writing. So I would like a continuance to the 23rd, I think, right?
Okay. Request a continuance till September 23rd, and I guess a decision for you guys in, I don't know, October, month out after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The problem with that is town meeting, but we'll work around
Yeah,
town
what-
meeting.
Okay. Whenever in October.
We may
that you
have
want
to have a special meeting, but,
Okay.
so a motion to continue this till the 23rd? Second?
So moved.
Second?
Second by Mike Baptiste, all in favor? Jane?
Jane Gleason, aye.
Mike Baptiste?
Baptiste, aye.
Sam Corbett, aye.
Julie Moran, aye?
And the chair votes aye. Okay, till the 23rd. And we'll, on the 9th, we'll see where we're at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see where we're at. No upcoming public hearings. The planning board schedule, we put this on, let's put a review of the status of findings of fact for this project on the 9th, just to review where we're at. And then on the 23rd, we'll start going through them. Those two dates. What else? We scheduled something else. Oh, and then we want to add to the agenda every meeting, we want to review the status of any completed applications.
Right.
You happy, Carl? We're done?
I think, are any input from the town? Josh, anything you or Ken want to add under other business?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, Ken.
The housing bond bill passed at the state level.
Say that
And what
again.
that does-
Could you
the
start?
housing bond bill.
Oh, housing bond bill.
Okay.
It passed in the Senate and the House. I believe it got signed by the governor. What it does is it makes accessory dwelling units as of right within the Commonwealth. And what we have right now is Section 840, which is our accessory dwelling unit bylaw. I assume that will have to change because of this new bond bill. And we should probably plan on having something by fall town meeting.
We've already missed the deadline for submission, haven't we?
It'll have to be spring town meeting, 25.
Oh, spring town meeting, okay.
Yeah, right.
All right, can you put that on the agenda for the 26th then?
Sure.
And then we'll start working on zoning bylaws.
Is that it, Ken?
So I didn't understand, that was buried in the middle of an email chain, Ken. I did see that. I didn't know what the heck it was about. You need to sign this.
It puts up a lot of money for affordable housing or housing development. Gives a lot of money to housing authorities. It's $1 billion in money.
Are you in the office tomorrow?
I will be in the morning, yes.
Can you come to the Affordable Housing Trust meeting at 9 and just under 24-hour business, just update us?
I have a meeting at 9 at Lopes Field for a grant application that we have in for the state.
Oh, okay. All right.
Motion adjourned.
Chair, is
I
that
have a
okay?
motion to adjourn. Don't go, because you got to sign it.
Yeah. Second. Not me, though.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Julie Moran, aye.
Chair votes aye. Give this to Sam, you need to sign this.
I don't.